Chapter 1. On the second floor of the quiet tea restaurant. The soft music was like a trickle flowing through people's hearts. There were not many guests on the second floor of the tea restaurant. There were only about a dozen people in twos and threes, talking about their own topics in a low voice. Suddenly, footsteps came from the stairs, which made many guests involuntarily look over. A pure girl with a ponytail, wearing jeans and a white polo shirt, and a tall, short-haired woman in purple casual clothes walked up side by side. Many people's eyes lit up. Look, two beauties, especially the one in purple casual clothes. I have been in Suzhou for 4 years, and I just came back. I didn't expect that there would be such a beauty in an E-County. She is really a mature woman. Although the one next to her is a little immature, she is also pure and beautiful. Monkey, no matter how beautiful a beauty is, it belongs to someone else. Stop dreaming. Hey, brother, don't hit me. By the way, that tall, short-haired woman, who is she? I have lived for more than 20 years, and she is definitely in the top 3 of all the women I have ever seen. That facial features, that temperament, is really breathtaking. Monkey, let me tell you, that beauty is called Lin Qing. She is a big shot with a very deep background. The 2 million Land Rover we saw 2 days ago belongs to her. In an E-County alone, she owns a hotel and 2 tea houses. In our county, this property is only a small part of her property. So powerful. The young man nicknamed Monkey could not help but be stunned. An E-County was just an ordinary county in Jiangsu. A 2 million Land Rover in a small county was indeed very eye-catching. Miss Lin, we have prepared your room. Please follow me. The waiter on the second floor of the tea restaurant immediately greeted them. The 2 beauties, led by the waiter, entered the box under the gaze of many people, and then the door of the box was closed. Inside the box, after ordering a pot of tea, the waiter left. Sister Lin, you come here every day these days, and you always have this box. Haha, everyone knows what you're thinking. The ponytailed girl smiled as she glanced out of the window. Opposite the window was a Children's Welfare Institute. In the open space of the Children's Welfare Institute, there were some staff members playing with the orphans. You little girl. Lin Qing couldn't help but chuckle. However, Lin Qing still occasionally looked down at the orphanage through the window. After searching for a while, he couldn't find what he was looking for and felt a little disappointed. That's strange. I can't find Tung Qingshan anywhere in the Welfare Institute. Why didn't he come today? Doesn't he know that our sister Lin is waiting for him here? The ponytailed girl sighed deliberately. All right, Min, don't be so sarcastic. Lin Qing chuckled. The ponytailed girl, Xiao Min, nodded and then said in puzzlement, Sister Lin, I keep feeling that Tung Qingshan is very mysterious. When we went on a self-guided tour to the greater Xing'an Mountains, Sister Lin, when you were in danger, Tung Qingshan carried you on his back and walked nearly 20 kilometers of mountain roads. That was a mountain road. This Tung Qingshan stamina is too terrifying. He's very mysterious. Lin Qing nodded as well. Lin Qing still clearly remembered how he got to know Tung Qingshan. At that time, Lin Qing and a group of like-minded friends went to the northeast to explore the greater Xing'an Mountains. As experienced backpackers, Lin Qing and his group naturally didn't follow the safe route provided by the tourist area. At that time, they hired local villagers as guides to explore some areas that weren't open to the public. Who would have thought the deserted mountain forest was too enchanting? Lin Qing was attracted by a rare bird. In order to photograph this bird, he accidentally separated from the group. When Lin Qing woke up, he couldn't find the group. In the bare mountain forest, there was no cell phone signal at all, and he couldn't contact the group. Under such circumstances, there was no response. Lin Qing could only grit his teeth and walk back alone. But who would have thought that he would encounter poachers from the greater Xing'an Mountains on the way? When the poachers saw Lin Qing's attire, they roughly guessed what was going on. In the wilderness, Lin Qing was so beautiful. When they saw Lin Qing, the male hormones of the poachers, who hadn't touched a woman for a long time in the mountains, surged. Without much hesitation, they immediately made their move. And Lin Qing had a very unyielding personality and resisted with all his might. But how could a woman fight against 5 big men? Naturally, Lin Qing was beaten and injured. Seeing that he was about to be humiliated and Lin Qing was about to lose hope, Tung Qingshan, who was wandering alone in the greater Xing'an Mountains, appeared. Tung Qingshan attacked like lightning. The injured Lin Qing didn't even see clearly before the 5 big men fell to the ground and fainted. Humph! Recalling what happened back then, Lin Qing couldn't help but snort, but a smile appeared on his face. At that time, Tung Qingshan actually wanted me to walk back alone. Fortunately, he wasn't too cruel. He finally carried me back. Scenes of that time appeared in Lin Qing's mind. On Tung Qingshan's back, it was like a floating boat returning to the harbor. No matter how rugged the mountain road was, Lin Qing felt calm in his heart. It was a full 20 miles of rugged mountain road. Tung Qingshan arrived at the destination with Lin Qing on his back. Ordinary people would be exhausted to walk 20 miles of mountain road, let alone carrying a living person. Moreover, it was in the uninhabited area of the greater Xing'an Mountains. Even excellent special forces soldiers might not be able to withstand it. After the mysterious young man, Tung Qingshan, and Lin Qing separated in the greater Xing'an Mountains, Lin Qing thought it would be difficult to see Tung Qingshan again. Unexpectedly, he met him again in the Ani County. Tung Qingshan, Lin Qing was still immersed in the memory. "Hey, Sister Lin, look, Tung Qingshan is here." The voice of the ponytail girl, Xiao Min, woke Lin Qing up. He couldn't help but turn his head and look down through the window. Opposite the window was a welfare home. Its full name was Huahin Children's Welfare Home. Lin Qing and Xiao Min could clearly see the playground of the welfare home through the window. At this time, a short-haired young man dressed in casual clothes and wearing glasses came to the playground with a big basin filled with apples. "Wow, apples. Eat apples. Line up quickly. Eat apples. Don't mess around. You stay behind me. Line up." The children who were playing immediately gathered around, and at the same time consciously formed into 2 small teams. Every day in the Hua Hin Children's Welfare Home, these orphans would be given a glass of milk in the morning and a fruit in the afternoon. These orphans usually didn't have any snacks, so the fruit in the afternoon was particularly attractive to them. "Thank you, Uncle Tung." These adorable children, after receiving the bright red apples, all shouted obediently. When a short-haired young man heard this, he couldn't help but smile as he continued to distribute the fruits. In the private room of the cafe, Lin Qing and Xiao Min were watching the short-haired young man distribute the fruits through the window. "Sister Lin, look at how happy Tung Qingshan is. It seems like he really likes children." Xiao Min sighed. "He really likes children. Otherwise, he wouldn't have come to this welfare home as a free volunteer." Lin Qing's gaze was completely focused on the short-haired young man, Tung Qingshan. The sincere smile that Tung Qingshan had towards the orphans had completely attracted her. "Xiao Min, I suddenly thought of something." "What is it?" Xiao Min's eyes lit up. Lin Qing sighed. "Old Madame Huahin has single-handedly maintained this welfare home for nearly 30 years. It's very admirable. I'm going to donate 1 million yuan. How about this? You go and contact the people of the welfare home." Old Madame Huahin, who was now over 80 years old, was the director of the Huahin Children's Welfare Home. "That's good." Xiao Min was overjoyed. At this moment, the short-haired young man, Tung Qingshan, was continuously distributing apples. Most of the children had already received them and were eating them in big mouthfuls. So small. A child with slightly curly hair looked at the apple in his hand and then at the apple in the hands of others. He realized that his own was a size smaller. Of course, the apples that the welfare home bought could not all be the same size. Therefore, the children's fruits would not be the same size. But children loved to compare. It was as if they were slightly smaller, they would be at a disadvantage. "Brother, my apple is the smallest. Your apple is much bigger than mine. It's almost the size of 2 of mine," the curly-haired child said to a sturdy child beside him. "Yes, my stomach doesn't feel too good today. I can't eat such a big one. I'll trade with you," the sturdy child said with a smile. The curly-haired child's black eyes lit up. He immediately said, "Really?" Although he said that, his gaze fell on the big apple in his brother's hand. "How can it be fake?" The sturdy child smiled and took the apple in his brother's hand. He handed over his big apple. At this moment, Tung Chingshan had already finished distributing the apples and happened to see this scene. These two brothers. Tung Chingshan's gaze became misty. A scene from a long time ago surfaced in his mind. It was Chinese New Year's Eve a long time ago. Outside, snowflakes swirled and firecrackers rang out incessantly. In an empty house, a large group of children were cheering as they surrounded an old granny who looked to be in her 60s. "Everyone has one. Everyone has one. Come one at a time." This granny with white hair looked kindly at the group of children. She gave each child 3 white rabbit creamy candies. In that distant, impoverished era, it was considered good to have white rabbit creamy candies during Chinese New Year. "Thank you, Granny." The group of children cheered and took the candies excitedly. They hadn't tasted the creamy candies for a year and a half. At this time, how could they hold back? Each of them ate happily and spoke excitedly. "Brother." A child wearing a tattered cotton jacket with patches pursed his lips and looked at his big brother. "What's wrong, Qinghe?" A slightly taller child who was dressed in the same plain clothes looked over in confusion. "Ivy finished my creamy candies. It's so delicious. I've finished it in such a short time." As he spoke, the child named Qinghe looked at the other children who were still eating slowly. He was almost drooling. The slightly taller child lowered his head and looked at the 2 white rabbit creamy candies in his hands. Qinghe, take it." The slightly taller child said. "Brother, you're not eating?" Qinghe was a little hesitant. "I have a toothache." The slightly taller child smiled and said, "I just ate one and it's already painful. Here you go." "Oh right, remember, don't bite the candies into pieces. Chew them like you do. Others haven't eaten one, but you've eaten all 3. I know, brother. Big brother treats me the best." He giggled. "However, these 2 pieces, I and big brother will each take one." The slightly taller child looked down. Obviously, he was also a child. He couldn't resist the temptation of the creamy candies and nodded. One for each of us. One for each of us." Tung Chingshan murmured softly. "Qinghe, it's been 22 years. It's been 22 years." At this moment, the sound of footsteps was heard. Tung Chingshan turned his head to look. He saw an old granny with a head full of silver hair, accompanied by a woman, walking over. "Grandma Dean." "Hello, Grandma Dean." A large group of orphans immediately shouted excitedly, and this granny with a head full of silver hair was so happy that it seemed as if a flower was blooming. "Grandma Dean." Tung Chingshan was startled. The Grandma Dean in front of him seemed to be a combination of the old granny who took care of him and his younger brother in his memory. 22 years. Grandma should be 83 years old this year. Tung Chingshan was so excited that his body slightly trembled. But in an instant, he restrained his excitement and restored his calmness. "Dean, this young man's name is Tung Chingshan. He took the initiative to come here as a free volunteer. He has been here for 6 days. He's a very diligent and smart young man," the woman said with a smile. "Oh, Tung Chingshan?" The granny with a head full of silver hair, who was over 80 years old, looked at Tung Chingshan with a smile. "Chingshan, help me take care of the dean. I'll go to the cafeteria to prepare dinner for the children." The woman smiled. "Don't worry, Aunt Lu." Tung Chingshan smiled. "Dean, I'll leave first." The woman spoke to the dean, and Tung Chingshan very naturally went forward to help the Grandma Dean. The old granny looked at Tung Chingshan and said with a kind smile, "Chingshan, you're 23 this year, right? I've seen your resume." "Yes, I just graduated from university." Tung Chingshan nodded. "Chingshan, you have soft skin and tender flesh. It's obvious that you haven't done any hard work. These few days, you must have suffered here." The Grandma Dean said with a smile. "No, I'm quite happy doing it," Tung Chingshan said with a smile as he supported the Grandma Dean. The Grandma Dean sighed and said, "To be honest, Chingshan, I feel very close to you. I can't help but think of an orphan in this orphanage a long time ago. It was in the 80s. At that time, The conditions of the orphanage were very poor. Only my eldest daughter and I took care of the children. At that time, there were a pair of brothers in the orphanage. One was named Qing Shan, and the other was named Qing Ha. I was the one who gave them this name. Your name is also Qing Shan. This is really fate. Tung Qing Shan's heart trembled, but he nodded. Yes, it is fate. However, Qing Shan was adopted and has left the orphanage for 22 years. He should be 29 today. He's much older than you. Perhaps he's already married and has children. The Grandma Dean sighed. He's a very well-behaved child. I wonder how he is now. My health is getting worse. It would be great if I could see Qing Shan again. Tung Qing Shan couldn't help but tremble. I believe that Grandma Dean will definitely fulfill your wish. The pair of brothers, Qing Shan and Qing Ha, were abandoned at the entrance of the orphanage not long after they were born. At that time, the Grandma Dean, Hua Hin, had just opened the orphanage. Qing Shan and Qing Ha could be said to be the first batch of orphans. Moreover, the Grandma Dean, Hua Hin, worked hard to raise the pair of brothers. Of course, the Grandma Dean was very close. Lin Qing and Xiao Min watched Tung Qing Shan in the orphanage. Tung Qing Shan first accompanied the Grandma Dean and then played with the children. From the beginning to the end, there was not a trace of impatience. Obviously, the children liked this Uncle Tung very much. Then, Tung Qing Shan sent the children to the cafeteria for dinner. Sister Lin, he's out, Xiao Min said immediately. As Tung Qing Shan walked out of the orphanage, Lin Qing immediately shouted through the window, Tung Qing Shan. Only then did Tung Qing Shan raise his head. Come up and have a seat, Lin Qing said with a smile. She knew very well that Tung Qing Shan must have had dinner in the cafeteria, because she had invited Tung Qing Shan several times a few days ago, and Tung Qing Shan only came to chat with her twice. Tung Qing Shan smiled and shook his head. No, I have something to do today. Let's get together again when we have time. That's fine. Lin Qing was a little disappointed, but still said with a smile. Lin Qing and Xiao Min just watched Tung Qing Shan leave. Sister Lin, this Tung Qing Shan really didn't give you face. Sister Lin, a beauty like you personally invited him, but he still didn't agree. Xiao Min said with a smile. Well, let's go to my place for dinner. Lin Qing stood up and left the tea house with Xiao Min in a farmyard on the outskirts of an e-county. In the empty yard, Tung Qing Shan was bare-chested, but he didn't wear glasses. Tung Qing Shan was gentle and modest with glasses, but without glasses, he looked calm and determined. At this moment, Tung Qing Shan was bare-chested, standing in the three postures of Xing Yi. His hands were in the shape of a tiger's claw, and his feet were empty, as if he was walking on mud. Tung Qing Shan's whole body stood there, giving people a feeling of a mountain. Whether it was moving forward, sideways, or chopping, it made people feel that his spirit was unshakable. Whoosh, whoosh. There was a sound of strong wind in the air. But once the power was accumulated, it was as quiet as a bell. His left foot was like an iron plow, and his right foot suddenly stomped on the ground, and his right fist burst out. His whole body was like a big bow that was bent to the limit, and his right fist shot out like a sharp arrow. Puff! A burst of air came out of nowhere, and there was even a strong wind in the yard. The three postures of Xing Yi, the bursting fist of the five elements boxing, was like floating clouds and flowing water, without a trace of difficulty, and its power was so great that it even produced a burst of air. If those who learn martial arts in society saw this scene, they would definitely be dumbfounded. Tung Qing Shan's whole body began to move around in the yard, using the three postures of Xing Yi as the base, and occasionally changing to the five elements boxing. It was obvious that Tung Qing Shan had the highest achievement in the blast fist of the five elements boxing. Phew! With a turn of his body, Tung Qing Shan returned to the preparatory form of the three postures of Xing Yi and slowly exhaled. His heart was as calm as still water, like the still surface of a lake. Naturally, he could clearly feel the situation in his body, from his internal organs to his muscles, skin, and hair. However, he was still far from the legendary inner vision. Although I'm only one step away, This step is like a heavenly moat that is difficult to cross. If I can step into the Grandmaster realm while I'm still alive, I can die without regrets. Tung Qingshan couldn't help but sigh. Knowing the Tao in the morning, one can die without regrets in the evening. As one of the three major internal martial arts, Xing-Yi martial arts had reached the Grandmaster realm in history. However, in modern society, those who could reach the Grandmaster realm were few and far between. The ground here is too weak. I can't use my full strength at all. Tung Qingshan looked at the ground and saw that there were already some cracks on the cement floor. This was under the situation where Tung Qingshan didn't use his full strength and was only practicing. If he were to fight with a powerful expert, the cement floor would probably completely collapse. Soon after, Tung Qingshan sat cross-legged and looked at his heart. His breathing was so weak that it was almost inaudible. His heart was as calm as still water. His spirit was limitless. Hua-hua, the extremely weak sound of blood flowing in his blood vessels and the sound of his heartbeat were so clear that it was like the sound of flowing water. Time passed slowly, and soon it was late at night. Tung Qingshan was still sitting cross-legged in the courtyard. At this moment, on the cement road in the countryside outside the courtyard, a lean man dressed in black was speaking to his caller in a low voice. "Gray Eagle, I have arrived at the suspected location of the target." Soon after, the lean man slightly calmed his emotions and quietly approached. His footsteps were light, and he didn't make a single sound. He quietly grabbed the wall of the courtyard with both hands and exerted a little force with his 10 fingers. With a grab and a push, he jumped in like a leopard cat. His hands and feet landed together, and the sound he made was extremely weak. The man dressed in black immediately looked around. Suddenly, he found a blurry figure sitting cross-legged in the middle of the courtyard. He couldn't help but jump in fright. "You guys still caught up?" The person sitting cross-legged suddenly opened his eyes. "Run!" The man dressed in black's expression changed, and he didn't hesitate at all. The man dressed in black understood that if it was a sneak attack or an assassination, he might still have a chance. But now that the other party had discovered him, according to the information, he had no chance at all. Swoosh! The man dressed in black retreated rapidly. His figure immediately flipped and was about to jump out of the courtyard. Boom! In the sight of the man dressed in black, he only saw the figure sitting cross-legged suddenly jump up. The whole cement ground suddenly shook and cracked. The figure was like a raging tiger. In an instant, it crossed the distance of 7 or 8 meters and pounced on the man dressed in black. The man dressed in black was so frightened that he didn't even have time to take out his weapon. Poochie! The man dressed in black only felt a sharp pain in his throat. Oh! The man dressed in black wanted to say something, but he couldn't. Then, his head fell down powerlessly. He had already died. Tung Qingshan tore the sleeve of the man dressed in black, and blood was smeared on the man's arm. A complicated code, similar to a tattoo, appeared on the arm of the man dressed in black. With Tung Qingshan's amazing eyesight, although there was only a faint trace of moonlight, he could still see it clearly. Tung Qingshan's expression slightly changed. For me, they are willing to pay such a big price to ask the people of the Hand of Darkness to track me. My whereabouts have been exposed. I can't stay in an E County any longer. Tung Qingshan immediately went back into the house, changed his clothes, put on his backpack, and quietly left an E County in the dark of the night. P.S. Tomato's new book, The Story of the 9 Cauldrons, is officially uploaded. Please collect, recommend, and support. The more recommendation votes, the better. Chapter 2. Tung Qingshan had only left for a moment when the 2 old Santana cars arrived not far from the courtyard. There were 3 people in the first car, and a strong man in black was sitting in the back. He held an infrared thermal imager in one hand and looked at it carefully. Then he said in a low voice, "Everyone, there should be no one in the courtyard. Let's go." Suddenly, 6 people came out of the 2 cars. 5 of them were Asian, and 1 was Caucasian. "I hope that guy is really not here." The leader of the men in black said in a low voice, "If he's really here, we'll all die." The Caucasian man said in a low voice. Although this small group of people was nervous, They did not dare to disobey the order of the organization. They bit the bullet and jumped into the courtyard from different parts of the wall. In just a moment, they had searched the entire courtyard. The leader of the men in black said with a relaxed expression, "The target has escaped. Only Little Four's body is left. We have confirmed that the target is around in E County. Our mission is complete. We can go back and rest. By the way, take Little Four's body away and clean up the surroundings." They were very familiar with this kind of thing. Venice, a coastal city on the Adriatic Sea in northern Italy, had an ancient history. It used to be the most powerful city in Europe. Even today, this ancient city still had many ancient buildings that existed in the 14th and 15th centuries. In Venice, there was an ancient red brick castle that had stood for hundreds of years. This ancient castle was called the Red Castle, also known as the Blood Castle. It was the ancestral house of the ancient European Redmayne family. Even though the Redmayne family had influence all over the West, the Red Castle was still the highest power center of the Redmayne family. Inside the Red Castle, in a dark hall, there was a giant LCD screen hanging on the wall of the hall. There was a map on the screen. In the hall, there was a young man with short brown hair and a silver-haired old man. "Young master, the Dark Hand has sent news that Wolf has appeared in an E County in the ancient eastern country of Jiangsu. I have already told this news to the Sickle of Death." The silver-haired old man said respectfully. The brownish-red, short-haired young man's face was a little pale, and his eyes were cold. He said in a deep voice, "The existence of wolves is a disgrace to the Redmayne family. What I need to do now is to kill the wolf at all costs as fast as I can. We must solve all of this before Father finds out." "Yes, young master." The silver-haired elder nodded. At this moment, footsteps could be heard. The brownish-red-haired youth's expression changed. He saw a cold-looking, bearded, middle-aged man with the same brownish-red hair walk in. "Father." The red-brown, short-haired youth immediately bowed. "Patriarch." The silver-haired elder immediately bowed as well. The direct descendants of the Redmayne family all had reddish-brown hair. This bearded middle-aged man was the person with the highest authority in the Redmayne family, Alexandria Redmayne. Alexandria's cold gaze swept over his son. "Ambrose, my child, you really disappoint me." "Father, I just want to finish this as soon as possible." The red-haired youth lowered his head. "Settle it as soon as possible? I'm already starting to doubt your ability. If my friend hadn't told me about this, I wouldn't have known that such a big thing had happened." Alexandria snorted coldly. "Even now, I still can't believe the news. Ambrose, tell me everything in detail from the beginning to the end." The direct descendant, Ambrose, raised his head and walked to the side of the computer. "Father, the incident this time mainly involves an assassin with the code name Wolf." As he spoke, he tapped on the keyboard. Instantly, many images and a large amount of text appeared on the giant LCD screen on the wall of the hall. 22 years ago, one of the two major assassin organizations controlled by our family, the Red Organization, collected 360 children with good physical qualities from all over the world. Among them was Wolf. According to the records, Wolf was Chinese. He was only 7 years old at that time. In the first round of screening by our organization, 113 of the 360 children survived. He was one of them. Alexandria looked at the description on the screen. Assassin organizations recruited new blood every year. The screening was extremely cruel. It was either life or death. There was no third option. The 113 children who survived were later sent to the Siberian training camp to undergo life and death training. 3 years later, 38 children survived. He was still one of them and was officially given the code name Wolf. These 38 candidates were sent to Old Mr. Tung. Old Mr. Tung only accepted 4 people as his disciples. Wolf was one of them. 6 years later, Wolf was 16 years old and returned to the Red Organization. In the next 12 years, Wolf and Cat were 2 of the 4 strongest assassins in the Red Organization. These 2 completed many missions. Last Christmas, an SS-rank mission worth $300 million was sent to me. The red-haired youth, Ambrose, said in a deep voice, The Red Organization hasn't completed an SS rank mission for 20 years. For the sake of the $300 million reward and to restore the Red Organization's reputation, I've accepted this mission. My child, you're even crazier than a female wolf protecting her cubs. Alexandria couldn't help but snort coldly. This SS-level mission was the highest-level mission in the Dark World. It was not within the capabilities of the Red Organization at all. Even if it could be completed, the price would be extremely high. I asked the 8 upper echelons of the Red Organization to make a good plan. They spent a lot of effort and finally used the pair of killers, the wolf and the cat, as bait to successfully complete the mission. The red-haired youth firmly said, "In my opinion, wolf and cat are only A-rank assassins. They can only bring our organization $1 to $200 million at most in their lifetime. By sacrificing them this time, not only did they receive $300 million in one go, but they also received a huge sum of money. Moreover, it can also restore the reputation of the Red Organization. Why not?" Alexandria sneered, but the result was terrible. "Yes, father." The red-haired youth shook his head and sighed. "I didn't expect it. I didn't even dare to think that this extremely outstanding killer wolf was actually hiding his strength after so many years of missions." The red-haired youth couldn't help but take a deep breath. His strength is far beyond A-rank. During that mission, the organization hid it from the two of them and let them die as bait. Cat died, but Wolf was still alive. After his best partner, Cat, died, Wolf launched a crazy revenge. He killed his way to the headquarters of the Red Organization alone. Alexandria's expression changed when he heard this. How crazy was it to kill his way to the headquarters of an assassin organization alone? Even the most powerful person in the ancient family was shocked by the killer's madness. This wolf had lived in the headquarters of the Red Organization for 12 years. Relying on his familiarity with the organization, he quietly infiltrated it. 2 A-rank assassins and 52 B-rank assassins were killed by him without anyone noticing. Moreover, he also killed 7 of the 8 high-ranking members of the Red Organization. When the organization came to their senses and started to besiege Wolf, Wolf revealed his terrifying strength. He fought against 2 A-rank assassins alone. His strength far surpassed that of an A-rank, and he quickly killed the 2 of them, as well as the last member of the upper management. Later on, he fought a group battle with over 20 B-rank assassins. He fought against so many people alone, and with his flying dagger skills, he unexpectedly won an unbelievable victory. Perhaps he was injured, but the A-rank and B-rank assassins of the Red Organization had already been slaughtered. Alexandria's expression changed greatly. 1 person against over 20 B-rank assassins? Alexandria didn't dare to believe it. 1 person against 2 A-rank assassins? Alexandria wasn't too surprised. However, 1 person against over 20 B-rank assassins, and still won? That was inconceivable. After all, it was difficult for 2 fists to fight against 4 hands. With over 20 powerful people ganging up on 1 person, it was impossible for him to lose. He is at least an S-rank assassin, or even stronger. Alexandria made such a judgment. Yes, the underworld has already adjusted Wolf to S-rank. In the entire world, there are only 52 S-rank assassins, including Wolf. The red-haired youth Ambrose sighed. If I had known that he was so powerful, I wouldn't have done that. I wouldn't trade an S-rank assassin even for $1 billion. A-rank assassins could be trained. However, there was only 1 S-rank assassin in the entire world for an average of 100 million people. Of course, this didn't include some hidden super experts. However, it also showed how precious they were. The Red Organization hadn't had an S-rank assassin in charge for decades. The difference between having an S-rank assassin and not having an S-rank assassin was too big. The headquarters of the Red Organization is in Siberia, Russia. After his revenge was successful, Wolf immediately started to flee. Naturally, I also started a mission in the underworld and started to chase after him. However, This wolf was really strong. He fled all the way from Russia. After that, he passed through the Sino-Russian border and escaped into the ancient eastern country of Heilongjiang. As for what happened after that, we couldn't find any trace of him. In the ancient eastern country, where Chinese are everywhere, it is very difficult to find a Chinese person. Not long ago, the Hand of Darkness organization finally discovered that wolf had appeared in a county in Jiangsu province. After saying all of this in one breath, the red-haired youth Ambrose had an ugly expression on his face. This is an excellent assassin. He was originally going to be the strongest fangs of my Redmane family. Alexandria sighed. After hearing the assassin's experience, he somewhat admired the assassin named Wolf. However, the assassin organization under my Redmane family was actually destroyed because of an internal traitor. This is the biggest joke in the underworld. In the past 100 years, there hasn't been a second one in the underworld. The red-haired youth Ambrose also lowered his head. This was indeed a disgrace. A powerful organization was actually destroyed because of the revenge of a traitor. This was simply inconceivable. The Redmane family, an ancient family with hundreds of years of inheritance, could not afford to lose this face. Kill him. No one can challenge my Redmane family. Alexandria's voice was low, but it seemed to contain endless anger. P.S. During the public version of the story of the Nine Cauldrons, Tomato will update 2 chapters a day. Each chapter is about 3,000 words. One chapter will be updated before noon, and one chapter will be updated before 8 at night. The new book has just been uploaded. Please collect, recommend, and support it. Tomato thanks. Chapter 3. The spring rain was falling, covering the ancient Yangzhou city. On the second floor of the Willow Tea House in the old town of Yangzhou, there was a seat near the window. Tung Qingshan, wearing glasses, was sitting there quietly. There was a cup of soy milk and a basket of steamed buns on the table in front of him. My whereabouts have been leaked. I estimate that the killer will find me in 1 or 2 days. Tung Qingshan was very clear about the power of the first international intelligence organization, Dark Hand. An County was just a small county under the jurisdiction of Yangzhou. Last night, he just rushed from the county to the urban area more than 100 kilometers away. It was not because he couldn't escape, but because he didn't want to escape. Because in Yangzhou, there was someone he wanted to see the most. Qinghe. Tung Qingshan looked at a 2-story old house in the distance. He ate the steamed buns and drank the soy milk. He even ordered a cup of tea and drank it while waiting. The tea was refilled 3 times. It was already 11 o'clock in the afternoon. Tung Qingshan still didn't find the person he wanted to see. Go back. Tung Qingshan paid the bill and immediately left the tea house, returning to his temporary residence in Yangzhou. This was a private house in the West District of Yangzhou. The monthly rent of this kind of house was about 1,000 yuan. But Tung Qingshan only wanted to live for 3 months, but he took out 10,000 yuan. The owner of the house didn't ask to see Tung Qingshan's ID card again. He didn't even say a word of nonsense. With so much money, what was the owner afraid of? In the living room, Tung Qingshan was lying on the sofa. When he just poured a cup of tea, his phone rang. Tung Qingshan frowned. This phone was bought at the last minute. There were only 2 people who knew his phone number. One was Lin Qing, the other was Aunt Lu from the orphanage. He bought this phone to contact the orphanage. Hello, Tung Qingshan, let's have lunch together. A familiar voice sounded. Tung Qingshan shook his head and smiled helplessly, then said, I'm sorry, Lin Qing, I have left an County. What? A cry of surprise came from the other side of the phone. Why are you out of town? Weren't you still here yesterday? Lin Qing was a little anxious. Lin Qing, my brother called me yesterday and told me that something happened at home. So I was in a hurry to go back to my hometown, and it was dark at that time, so I didn't inform you. Tung Qingshan made up an excuse casually. He didn't want these ordinary people to mix in his world. Oh, Lin Qing's voice dropped. He seemed a little disappointed. After a while, he spoke again. Tung Qingshan, where is your hometown? I might go traveling when I have time. My hometown is in a remote mountain area. You wouldn't know it even if I told you. Tung Qingshan said. Lin Qing. When I come to any county, I will definitely look for you. Oh, I'm going to have lunch now. Let's talk later. Tung Qingshan hung up the phone. Tung Qingshan laughed at himself and threw the phone on the table. Then he took out a finger-sized black small tripod hanging in front of his chest from his collar. He gently stroked the small tripod, as if he was stroking his lover. Kitty, is your man's charm great? So soon a girl chased after you. Tung Qingshan looked at the small tripod and whispered to himself, Kitten, I have lived in an county for nearly a week. I have also seen the dean's grandma. She is still as kind as before. Seeing the dean's grandma, I have completed one of my wishes. Now, there is another wish left, and that is to see my brother Qinghe. Qinghe is in Yangzhou. I think I should be able to see him. When I see my brother Qinghe, I will have no regrets. At that time, I will travel all over the country to pursue the peak of martial arts. Of course, you will accompany me all the way. Although Tung Qingshan looked like a young man who had just graduated from college, he was actually almost 30 years old. Because he had cultivated the internal martial arts to a very high level, some of the calluses and dead skin on his body had fallen off due to his arduous cultivation. His whole body was rejuvenated and looked much younger. He took the backpack next to him and took out the laptop from the backpack. After connecting the power, he turned on the computer and turned on the music player. Then he put the laptop on the table in front of him. I am a wolf from the north, walking in the boundless wilderness. The mournful wind from the north blows. The song Wolf by Qi Qin echoed in the hall. This song was Tung Qingshan's favorite song, because in the past 20 years, he only had one name, Wolf. Just like the woman he loved, she only had one name, Cat. Since the day he was brought to Siberia in Russia, the name Qingshan became a thing of the past. After going through many life and death trials and walking out of the pile of corpses, he was qualified to have a code name, Wolf. Before the age of 7, he was carefree and was a child in an orphanage. When he was 7, he was adopted. He thought his life would be better, but he entered hell. He became a candidate for the killer organization. In the first round of trials, a large group of children fought for a little food. Only 113 survived out of 360 people. Then he was sent to the terrible Siberian training camp. When he was 10, only 38 out of the 113 people survived. He survived by relying on his willpower. He was given the name Wolf. It was also that year that he met his master, Tung Bo Lei, a Chinese master of Xing martial arts. Tung Bo Lei accepted 4 people. The other 3 were only registered disciples. Only he was Tung Bo Lei's personal disciple. Even the killer organization didn't know this. When he was 16, he returned to the killer organization and began his journey as a real killer. Camouflage, hiding, and so on were all learned and improved during the journey of life and death. In the long days, he was always accompanied by a girl of the same age, Kat. They were in the same batch of 360 people. They went through trials together, went through life and death training together, learned under Tung Bo Lei's master, and were in the killer organization together. They supported each other and helped each other in times of need. In the dark journey of being a killer, the two of them had unknowingly become inseparable from each other. The original plan was to leave the organization one day and live a free life. But at the beginning of the year, when he was 29, a nightmare came. The flames of the explosion made Tung Qingshan despair. At that time, the other half of his life, a female killer named Kat, died. She was the woman he loved the most important existence in his life. The death of Kat made Tung Qingshan fall into absolute madness. It made Tung Qingshan become a lone wolf of revenge, a crazy lone wolf. He began to take revenge regardless of everything. Kill the organization's top management who made the plan. He wanted to take revenge with the thought of dying. But who would have thought that at the last moment of life and death, his flying knife skills could make a breakthrough and he escaped from the organization's base alive? The death of Kat completely changed Tung Qingshan's state of mind. He sneaked back to his motherland this time to see Grandma Dean, who was like a mother to him, and his younger brother, Qinghe. After accomplishing these two wishes, Tung Qingshan would have no more worries and pursue martial arts wholeheartedly. After listening to the song once, Tung Qingshan took a deep breath and carefully put the small tripod in his arms. Then he turned off the music player and connected to the broadband. Then, Tung Qingshan opened a foreign website with familiarity. It was full of English, but he was very familiar with it, clicking and typing. He was very familiar with the English alphabet. It's so troublesome to contact Elena every time. I have to download this Beatles software every time. After downloading the Beatles software, Tung Qingshan installed it on his computer. The Beatles software was a chat tool similar to QQ. However, the Beatles software was written by Tung Qingshan's friend, Elena. If QQ had tens of millions of users, then the Beatles software only had 2 users. One was Elena, the other was Tung Qingshan. This software was written purely for 2 people to chat. After starting the Beatles software, the entire screen suddenly turned black, with only 2 drops of blood as sad and beautiful. Then, the account and password box appeared. After entering it, he logged in. Elena. After entering English, Tung Qingshan waited for the other party to respond. In just a moment, the other party responded. Wolf. Oh, now I should call you Tung Qingshan. Far away in Europe, in a villa in the suburbs of London, a barefoot blonde beauty in a nightgown was typing on the keyboard. Her eyes were full of excitement. Elena, last time you told me that the orphan named Qinghe is now in Yangzhou, right? Tung Qingshan asked again. Of course. Do you doubt my information? In the orphanage, he was called Qinghe. Later, after he was adopted by his adoptive parents, he changed his name to Qin Hong. When he graduated from high school, he entered the army. Later, he joined a special department of the country and is now in charge of the Yangzhou area. The address I gave you is definitely not a problem. Elena was sure. Tung Qingshan nodded. Today, he only waited for half a day. Although he didn't get to see his brother, it didn't mean that his brother wasn't in Yangzhou. That's right, Wolf. I have to remind you again. The powerful Redmayne family won't let you live. This time, it's equivalent to slapping the Redmayne family in the face. Sickle of Death has already accepted the mission to kill you. 2 of their organization's super experts have already infiltrated China. You have to be extremely careful. Once your whereabouts are exposed, you have to escape immediately. Oh, 2 of the Sickle of Death's super experts? It's sharpshooter Sun Tze and body crusher Dolgotrov, right? Tung Qingshan replied as he typed on the keyboard. Smart, it's the 2 of them. These are 2 S-rank assassins. Neither of them is weaker than you. You can't be careless, Elena reminded. Tung Qingshan's eyes lit up. Other than these 2, I don't care about the rest of the Sickle of Death. But since they're here, let's fight. So arrogant? TSK, TSK. As expected of the flying dagger lone wolf. Your reputation is not any weaker than the 2 of them. However, you're just one person. There are 2 of them. One is close combat and the other is long range. When they work together, their power will multiply. Wolf, as your friend, let me remind you that once your whereabouts are exposed, you have to escape immediately. Elena advised. Your advice is too late. My whereabouts were exposed yesterday. Tung Qingshan's face revealed a unique smile. Ever since his wife Kitten died, the most important thing to Tung Qingshan was martial arts. To be able to fight with a super expert, he could not ask for more. What? It's already been exposed? Hurry up and escape, Elena said anxiously. Haha, what's there to escape for? I'll be in Yangzhou. I'll wait for the 2 of them to fight me. Tung Qingshan's gaze became sharp. His wife was dead. He had nothing to worry about. At this point, what was there for Tung Qingshan to be afraid of? No matter how many people came, Tung Qingshan would take them on. At worst, he would throw caution to the wind. In this small Yangzhou city, he would wait for the world's super experts to come. If one came, he would fight one. If 2 came, he would kill both. I really want to see who can kill me. Tung Qingshan's gaze was as sharp as a knife. Chapter 4. On the 4th day of Tung Qingshan's stay in Yangzhou City, in the courtyard of the house he rented, Tung Ching Shan was sitting cross-legged in the courtyard. The night had already passed. When the first ray of sunlight shone on Yangzhou City, Tung Ching Shan opened his eyes almost at the same time. His heart was as calm as water, and his spirit was restrained. He stood up and faced the sun. He took a deep breath, and with a peaceful expression, he immediately performed the Xing E12 styles. The Xing E12 styles were divided into 12 styles: dragon, tiger, eagle, monkey, horse, swallow, harrier, rooster, bear, bird, roar, and snake. Each style had its own mysteries. When Tung Ching Shan used the dragon form, he was like a swimming dragon coming out of the water, traversing through the monstrous waves. His speed was as fast as lightning, and the spiral was the form of a rolling force. As his fist turned and thrust, a sharp whistling sound that pierced through the air resounded. The dragon style and the drilling fist of the Xing E5 elements boxing were almost perfect. When he performed the tiger style, his body moved up and down so fast that it looked like a phantom. Then, with his hands and feet on the ground, he suddenly pounced forward like a ferocious tiger coming down the mountain. With a low whistling sound, his left fist turned and bent in front of his eyebrows, and his right fist punched out like a cannonball. The sound of firecrackers exploding rang out in the air. His left fist and right fist intertwined, and his left fist punched out again. Alternating, he was like a ferocious tiger coming down the mountain. His claws kept tearing, trying to tear his prey into pieces. When he finished a round of punches, the sun had already completely jumped out of the horizon. Facing the sun, he stopped. Tung Ching Shan looked at the sun with a firm and unshakable gaze. Since his wife died, Tung Ching Shan only pursued martial arts. His faith was extremely firm, and it made Tung Ching Shan's understanding of Xing E martial arts improve continuously. Every time he improved, Tung Ching Shan felt that Xing E martial arts was broad and profound. It's been 3 days, and I still haven't seen Qinghe. Tung Ching Shan frowned slightly and then smiled. But the efficiency of the Hand of Darkness is really low. They only found my traces last night. Tung Ching Shan thought that with the distance between Yangzhou City and an E county, the Dark Hand should be able to find him within a day. But who would have thought that it was only until the evening of the 3rd day that the other party finally found traces of him? However, this was not strange. The Hand of Darkness had originally thought that, after Tung Ching Shan's whereabouts were exposed, he would immediately flee far away. Therefore, the search was focused on other areas. Who would have thought that Tung Ching Shan wasn't afraid of death? He surprisingly stayed in Yangzhou City. We haven't found Qinghe for 3 days in a row. Qinghe is now a member of the country's special forces. Perhaps he was delayed by something important. As usual, Tung Ching Shan left his residence, took a taxi, and went directly to Willow Tea House in the Old City. Under normal circumstances, Tung Ching Shan would stay in Willow Tea House in the morning, and in the afternoon, he would stay in Baiyun Coffee House not far away. In Baiyun Coffee House, he could also see his brother Qinghe's house. Yangzhou City, Old City, Willow Tea House. Sir, you're here. Please come in. The waiter very familiarly led Tung Ching Shan to a window seat on the 2nd floor. Sir, still soy milk and steamed dumplings? For 3 days in a row, the waiter had been sitting at the same table every day, ordering the same food. Naturally, the waiter was very familiar with what Tung Ching Shan wanted to order. Tung Ching Shan slightly nodded. Yes, thank you. Then he turned his head and looked through the window at the direction of his brother Qinghe's house in the distance. Well, these days, Qinghe hasn't been home at all. What's going on? Tung Ching Shan slightly frowned. This was the 4th day he had been here to observe. After a few days of observation, Tung Ching Shan was very familiar with many places in his brother's house. With a glance, it was very easy for him to distinguish whether the door was opened, whether the window was opened, whether the curtains were drawn or not. No changes. After a few days of observation, Qinghe's house didn't seem to have anyone living in these days. In a few days, sharpshooter Sun Zhe and body crusher Dolgotrov will come. I hope I can see my brother before the battle. Tung Ching Shan thought in his heart. Sir, your soy milk and steamed dumplings." The waiter served a basket of steamed dumplings and a large cup of soy milk. Then, Tang Shan began to eat his breakfast and waited quietly at the same time. A light breeze was blowing. A Land Rover SUV was driving on the street of the old district of Yangzhou. Such a domineering and manly car was driven by a very delicate short-haired beauty. A beautiful woman driving this kind of car was really different. It couldn't help but make the eyes of many people on the street shine, and they couldn't help but exclaim in admiration. Lin Qing drove the Land Rover quietly. She had long been accustomed to the gazes on both sides of the street. There was only a faint trace of loneliness on her face. "I thought I would just muddle along like this, but I met him, Tang Shan. He was like a gust of wind. He suddenly came and filled my world with color again, but then he left like a gust of wind." Lin Qing's eyes were cold. Her eyes suddenly fell on a tea house on the street, Willow Tea House. In Yangzhou City, Willow Tea House was far less famous than Fuchin Tea House. However, it also had a deep history, and the price was much lower than Fuchin Tea House. Out of habit, Lin Qing made a turn and parked the Land Rover in the open space in front of the tea house. Then, she stepped into the Willow Tea House. "Miss Lin." When the waiter saw Lin Qing, he immediately greeted her enthusiastically. "Miss Lin, you haven't been here for a long time." "I went out for a trip," Lin Qing said with a faint smile. Then, she directly went upstairs. Tang Shan had already finished his breakfast. He was drinking tea and paying attention to his brother Qing's house. "Tang Shan," a slightly trembling voice sounded. Tang Shan was startled. In Yangzhou City, there weren't many people who knew him. Tang Shan turned his head in confusion. He saw a short-haired woman wearing black lady's trousers and a white lady's blouse standing at the stairs. She was Lin Qing. Seeing Lin Qing's eyes, Tang Shan's calm heart couldn't help but tremble. Lin Qing's eyes were angry and anxious. There was a hint of happiness and a hint of annoyance. What kind of eyes were those? They contained so many emotions. Kitten. Tang Shan still remembered when he was 20 years old. He and his wife, Kitten, were carrying out a mission in Lebanon in the Middle East. Because Kitten was shot, he took off Kitten's clothes and took out the bullet for her. At that time, Kitten looked at him with the same eyes, angry and anxious. There was happiness and annoyance, the exact same eyes. It was also after that time that Kitten and him took the crucial step and became lovers. Tang Shan, didn't you say that you had an urgent matter to go back to your hometown? You also said that I didn't know that your home was in the mountains. Why are you still in Yangzhou? Lin Qing sat in front of Tang Shan and asked. But Lin Qing found that Tang Shan didn't say anything. He just stared at her. Staring at her eyes, looking at a lady's eyes, was a very rude behavior. What are you looking at? Lin Qing couldn't help but ask, although she said that there was an inexplicable trace of happiness in her heart. Tang Shan, this blockhead, finally discovered her charm. Your eyes are very similar to my wife's. Tang Shan sighed softly. He withdrew his gaze and took a sip of tea. Lin Qing was shocked. Your wife. Lin Qing was still angry. She wanted to ask why Tang Shan lied to her. But when she heard the word wife, she was completely shocked. You just graduated from university? Didn't you just walk out of the door? How come you have a wife? University? Tang Shan shook his head. I didn't go to university. Actually, even the glasses were fake. It was just a simple disguise. You. Lin Qing's mind was in a mess. Sorry, I've been lying to you. I lied to you when I said that my home was in the mountains. I lied to you when I said that I just graduated from university. Tang Shan smiled. Lin Qing, I do have something important to do. It's not convenient for you to get involved. So I've been lying to you. Many things are complicated to explain. The best way is to pretend that you've never seen me. Lin Qing had always felt that Tang Shan was mysterious. That was because Tang Shan had shown amazing strength and terrifying stamina in the greater Xing'an Mountains in the northeast. And now, Lin Qing felt that Tang Shan was even more mysterious. Pretend that I've never seen you? Lin Qing stared at Tang Shan. Tang Shan nodded. Lin Qing could feel the coldness hidden in Tung Qingshan's heart. It was as if he was resisting other people's contact and understanding of him. You've been lying to me. Don't you want to make it up to me? Lin Qing asked. Make it up to me? Tung Qingshan frowned. Are you busy today? Lin Qing asked. Tung Qingshan nodded slightly. In the afternoon, I'm going to spend the afternoon at the cafe next door. Very good. Lin Qing smiled and nodded. I'm not asking for much. You can drink tea here. I'll accompany you. In the afternoon, you can go to the cafe. I'll go to the cafe too. I can accompany you. If you want to meet any guests, I won't get involved. I just want to stay with you for a day. How about it? Tung Qingshan was a little confused. Just to stay with him for a day? If the other party insisted on staying by his side, he couldn't stop him. Okay. Tung Qingshan nodded. Lin Qing smiled. Chapter 5. Not far from Willow Tea House was the White Cloud Cafe. Tung Qingshan and Lin Qing were sitting opposite each other. Soon, the sun went down. So fast. Lin Qing looked out of the window. She didn't notice the passage of time today, but a day had already passed. Then she looked at Tung Qingshan. Lin Qing's face couldn't help but show a trace of a peaceful smile. Every time she saw Tung Qingshan, she always felt very comfortable. Her lonely heart could calm down. At that time, Tung Qingshan carried her on his back and walked for 20 miles. She would never forget the feeling of being carried on Tung Qingshan's back. In her life, she had never felt so safe, and her heart felt so peaceful. If I can look at him like this forever, until the end of time, how good it would be, Lin Qing thought in her heart. But in her mind, the image of a person emerged. Lin Qing couldn't help but tremble. No, I can't pester Tung Qingshan like this. In an E-County, it's okay, but this is Yangzhou City. If he finds out, Tung Qingshan will be in trouble. But when she thought that she would never see Tung Qingshan again, Lin Qing's heart was not reconciled. Meeting into Xing, Anling was fate. To be able to meet again in an E-County, it was fate. Now, meeting again in Yangzhou City, even Lin Qing felt that God was helping her. Buddha said, in the past life, 500 times in exchange for a brush with the shoulder in this life. I and Tung Qingshan met 3 times in a row. This should be fate. Lin Qing's heart was bitter. But I can't hurt Tung Qingshan. Inner struggle made Lin Qing hesitate. Tung Qingshan slightly shook his head. Today, he waited for a whole day, but he didn't see his younger brother Qinghe. Tung Qingshan suddenly noticed the music in the cafe. It was a game, A Dream by Qi Qin. Lin Qing, what do you think of Qi Qin's song? Tung Qingshan asked with a smile. Only then did Lin Qing return to his senses. When he heard this, he couldn't help but laugh. A game and a dream? Qi Qin did cover it, but this song was written by Wang Jie. Oh, I only listen to Qi Qin's songs, Tung Qingshan said. Lin Qing was surprised. How could a person only listen to one person's songs? Even if he liked one person's songs, he couldn't completely abandon other songs. He couldn't help but ask curiously, why do you only listen to Qi Qin's songs? Because he has a song called Wolf. Tung Qingshan said casually. Wolf? Lin Qing was even more puzzled. Well, I have to go back. See you later if there is a chance. Tung Qingshan smiled and stood up. Before Lin Qing had time to say anything, Tung Qingshan turned around and walked out. Lin Qing opened his mouth and finally sat down weakly. Listening to the sad and beautiful song, Lin Qing couldn't help but smile bitterly. A game and a dream? Let's just treat it as a dream. Then he raised a glass of red wine next to him and drank it. Lin Qing's sudden appearance in Yangzhou was just a trivial matter for Tung Qingshan. He just sighed. To Xing, Anling, and E-County in Yangzhou City, he met Lin Qing 3 times in a row. This was really a coincidence. Of course, Tung Qingshan just sighed. Phew, phew. The night wind was whistling. The branches of a peach tree in the courtyard couldn't help but sway with the wind. A shadow was constantly flashing. The sound of air exploding and sharp whistling resounded from time to time. Because the voice was low. In addition, the houses were far away from each other, so it didn't affect the surrounding residents too much. Suddenly, Tung Qingshan stopped. There was a trace of puzzlement in his eyes. The Master Realm. How can I step into the Master Realm? Tung Qingshan's heart was full of doubts. I have been practicing for many years. Now, the internal strength can burst out from almost every part of my body. The most difficult part is the skin of my face. How can I break through the last step? Master has been stuck at the last step for dozens of years. In the end, he couldn't enter the Master Realm. Tung Qingshan sighed. In his heart, he longed for the Master Realm even more. After that, he didn't think about it anymore. I have been in Yangzhou City for 8 days. For a whole 8 days, I haven't seen Qinghe even once. Tung Qingshan's heart was a little anxious. I asked Elena. Elena was very confident. She was very sure that Qinghe was in charge of the Yangzhou area. His address was there. Tung Qingshan had no other way. He could only sigh and close his eyes to meditate. At dawn, the world was just dimly lit. At this moment, the world was very cold and cool. Tung Qingshan closed his eyes and sat cross-legged in the courtyard. The world was silent. Boom! The thick solid wood door of the courtyard exploded as if it was hit by a cannonball. A large number of wooden fragments shot into the courtyard like arrows, covering Tung Qingshan. Tung Qingshan, who was sitting cross-legged, suddenly clawed the ground with his hands like tiger claws. He directly clawed a few holes on the ground. His whole body rushed forward and rolled. At the same time, he kicked his feet and directly jumped on the roof like an ape. At the same time, a very subtle sound was heard. Puff, puff, puff. 3 consecutive sounds. 3 bullets. 2 of them actually brushed past Tung Qingshan's body and almost hit him. Installed a silencer? Sun Tzu and Dolgotrov, they're finally here. Tung Qingshan, who was lying on the roof, looked cold like a cold wolf. His right hand quietly touched his trousers, and a dagger appeared in his hand. Although it was a dagger, it was actually just an ordinary fruit knife. With a flying knife in his hand, Tung Qingshan's momentum was even stronger. Whoosh dash! A low whistling sound came from the air. A tall and strong figure suddenly rushed in from the courtyard door like a high-speed tank. This figure instantly found that Tung Qingshan was already on the roof. Without hesitation, he directly jumped on the roof in the courtyard. Tung Qingshan instantly recognized that this was a bald white man. At the same time, a seemingly thin Asian man appeared at the courtyard door. He was holding a silver pistol in his hand. This Asian man's eyes were as cold as an iceberg that would not melt for thousands of years. At the moment when the tall figure jumped, he fired at Tung Qingshan. Puff, puff, 2 consecutive shots. He fired and jumped with the strong white man. Their coordination was almost perfect. If Tung Qingshan wanted to use the flying knife to deal with the white man on the roof, he would definitely not be able to escape from the bullets of the S-level killer sharpshooter Sun Tzu if he was distracted. However, if he used all his strength to dodge the bullets, he would also be in trouble when facing the strong, close-range fighter body crusher Dolgotrov. For a moment, Tung Qingshan seemed to be at a loss. At the moment when Sun Tzu fired and Dolgotrov jumped, Tung Qingshan also did not hesitate. He exerted force with his feet, and the roof tile shattered. Tung Qingshan directly fell down. This fall caused the attacks of the 2 opponents to completely miss. As he fell, Tung Qingshan's eyes were like lightning. He stared at the sky, and his right hand was stable without the slightest tremble. Suddenly, he swung his hand, swoosh. In the hazy dawn, the flying knife was as bright as a lightning bolt. It streaked across the sky and penetrated the roof tiles. Chi! Hearing the familiar voice, Tung Qingshan smiled. It was obvious that the flying dagger had hit its target. Tung Qingshan nimbly jumped into the room like a cat. He turned his hands under the bed and grabbed 5 fruit knives in each hand. In any city, buying a fruit knife was a very simple matter. Tung Qingshan wiped his hands between his trouser legs, and the 10 fruit knives were inserted into the knife, sheath tied to his trouser leg. Pung! Suddenly, the tiles above Tung Qingshan's head suddenly exploded, and a terrifying figure like a prehistoric monster fell from the sky. Dolgotrov, The probability of winning against this monster in close combat is not high. Moreover, once I am entangled with him, I will definitely die if Sun Tze shoots again. Tung Qingshan's expression changed. He stamped his feet, and like a clumsy elephant, he moved a few meters backward in a strange manner. Then, he exerted force with both his hands and feet, and like a tiger, he jumped into the courtyard. As a master of Xingyi Quan, Tung Qingshan's speed was already extremely fast. He rushed into the courtyard from inside the house, and the cold morning air hit his face. But what followed was bullets. Puff! A bullet almost accurately calculated the speed and direction of Tung Qingshan's jump, intercepting him. Tung Qingshan, who was already prepared, threw a flying knife backhand. The cold surface of the flying knife flashed with a metallic luster. It passed through the space of a few meters, and with extreme precision, it collided with the bullet. Clang! The bullet was directly split and rebounded to the side. Puff! But at the same time, another bullet arrived. In terms of power, Tung Qingshan's flying knife was more powerful than ordinary bullets. However, in terms of speed, Tung Qingshan's flying knife could already shoot a few bullets after a modified professional gun. Humph! Tung Qingshan twisted his body in midair, and his whole body was like a swimming dragon. The bullet directly hit Tung Qingshan's right arm, and at this moment, Tung Qingshan's right arm was like a tight cow tendon. At the same time, his right arm twisted and turned, and his entire right arm seemed to have several cow tendons that were bouncing and rotating. A strong spiral force was produced. Puff! The spiral internal force was like a sharp needle, and it collided with the bullet head, causing the penetrative power of the bullet to decrease sharply. At the same time, the bullet shot into the muscle, and was stuck by the strong muscle. Oomph! Almost in an instant, the bullet was squeezed out by the muscle and fell to the ground. The clear sound of the bullet falling on the cement floor made sharpshooter Sun Tze smile, and body crusher Dolgotrov, who had just come out of the house, had a smile on his face. One stood at the door of the yard, and the other stood at the door of the house. The two just smiled and looked at Tung Qingshan. As for Tung Qingshan, he stood under the peach tree next to the yard, and his face was as calm as still water. Flying knife, lone wolf, you are indeed worthy of being a super expert who can single-handedly destroy the Red Organization. I just shot you twice consecutively, but it only slightly injured your right arm. Your muscle control is something I can't compare with. I admire you. Sharpshooter Sun Tze was a seemingly handsome young man. However, his eyes were cold and gloomy, like the cold, venomous snake in the Amazon. Tung Qingshan knew very well that this Sun Tze was an expert who practiced one of the three major internal martial arts, Ba Gua Zhang. His real age should be similar to Tung Qingshan's, and he should have cultivated internal force a long time ago. Along with the gun, he was like a messenger of death that terrified countless people. Wolf, you are a strong expert. I, Dolgotrov, admire you. You should kill yourself. The white man, who was as tall as a polar bear, said in a low voice. Tung Qingshan glanced at the bullet on the ground, and there were traces of blood on the bullet. Tung Qingshan sighed in his heart. Although he was only one step away from the Grandmaster realm, and his muscle control had reached an extremely high level, he still couldn't easily resist this specially made bullet. That bullet had actually affected Tung Qingshan's right arm, and his strength had decreased. Looking at your body's ability to resist bullets, you should have reached the peak of internal martial arts. You're only one step away from the Grandmaster realm. Sun Tze sighed. Unfortunately, another internal martial arts expert is going to die. With the two of them working together, they already had the upper hand. Now that Tung Qingshan was injured, they would definitely win. Wolf, we are both internal martial arts practitioners. I respect you. You should kill yourself. Die with dignity. Sun Tze said. In a fierce battle between super strong experts like them, it was normal for their heads to explode or their bodies to be torn to pieces. Letting Tung Qingshan die with dignity was also a bit of pity from the two of them. Kill myself. Tung Qingshan's gaze was like a knife, glancing at the two of them. What a joke. Who will live and who will die is still uncertain. My life is right here. If you have the ability, come and take it. P.S. During the new book period, Tomato needs everyone's support. I hope everyone can collect this book and spend a few recommendation votes. Recommendation votes are good stuff, after all. Chapter 6. You overestimate yourself. Sun Tzu couldn't help but sneer, but his eyes became even colder. What they said just now seemed to be for Tung Qingshan's sake. But in fact, they wanted to affect Tung Qingshan's will. If Tung Qingshan committed suicide, that would naturally be the best. In this way, the two of them could complete the task effortlessly. But if it was a real life and death battle, even if the two of them could kill Tung Qingshan, they would probably be injured. This Dolgothrov was hit by my knife, but it didn't affect him at all. Tung Qingshan glanced at the Russian man. He and Sun Tzu are both wearing black uniforms. This black uniform should have a very strong defense ability. This Russian man was indeed hit by a flying knife when he was on a roof. But the two of them already knew that Tung Qingshan had a unique skill with flying knives. This time, the two of them wore special clothes with strong defense ability. After the flying knife pierced through the clothes, its power was already very weak. The body-crushing machine Dolgothrov easily used its muscles to clamp the blade of the flying knife and squeezed it out. Monkey, this wolf wants to die. Let's fulfill his wish. This Russian man Dolgothrov spoke fluent Chinese. The biggest threat is the sharpshooter Sun Tzu. I must kill him. Only then will I have a chance to live. Tung Qingshan suddenly lowered his body without any warning. He stomped on the ground and grabbed the ground with both of his hands. He was like a ferocious tiger coming down from the mountain. He jumped nearly 10 meters and attacked Magasawa with a cannon fist. Sharpshooter Sun Tzu, who was standing at the entrance of the courtyard, slightly raised the corner of his mouth. His whole body moved. This movement was like a wisp of a phantom floating from the side. At the same time, the silver pistol in his hand also made a subtle, almost inaudible sound. Puff! Puff! The moment the opponent raised his gun, Tung Qingshan immediately twisted his body like a venomous snake, turning and leaping to the side. In terms of the agility of the body in close combat, Bagua Zhang could be said to be the best among the three major internal martial arts. Bagua Zhang was said to have the first step, second step, third step, and fourth step. The first step was the most basic step, and this Bagua Zhang Grandmaster expert, Sun Tzu, moved like a swimming dragon, fast as lightning and as elegant as the wind. The bullets from the handgun were even more cunning and ruthless. With the agility of the 8 trigrams palm and the power of modern firearms, it was indeed terrifying. My speed and agility are inferior to this Sun Tzu. I can't chase after him, but he can constantly attack me. At the same time, there's also this body-shattering machine, Dolgothrov. If I react any slower, I'll die. I only have one chance. Tung Qingshan understood. Pooh! Another bullet was fired. Tung Qingshan could not dodge it in time, and the terrifying monster, Dolgothrov, also attacked from the side. Not good. Tung Qingshan's abdomen instantly became as soft as cotton. The moment the bullet hit his abdomen, a powerful inner force shook out, and the force of the bullet was reduced by 70%. At the same time, his muscles shook and became as hard as steel. The bullet was stuck in his muscles and then squeezed out. Tung Qingshan himself was like an iron bridge. His hands were locked on the ground, and his whole body was like a swimming dragon flipping over the waves. He suddenly jumped to the side. Not far away, Sun Tzu revealed a cold smile. The Russian man laughed and rushed towards Tung Qingshan. This is the time. Tung Qingshan's figure turned to the side of the peach tree in the courtyard. He held a flying knife in each of his hands, and his eyes became sad. At the same time, 2 flying knives flew out of his hands, each drawing a cold trajectory. They passed through the air and shot towards Sun Tzu and Dolgothrov. Magasawa sneered and shot a spear at the flying dagger. In terms of spear techniques, Sun Tzu could definitely be ranked in the top 10 in the world. Shooting a flying knife with one shot was a very easy thing to do. Umph! The Russian man, Dolgothrov, let out a deep roar. His right fist, which was covered in a metal glove, suddenly smashed towards a flying knife. Tung Qingshan's eyes were cold and deep, with a hint of sadness. The inner force that was instilled in the two flying knives was inconceivably connected to Tung Qingshan's state of mind. Pong! Pong! Just when the flying knife was about to collide with the bullet, without anything touching the flying knife strangely broke into 7 or 8 pieces of iron. The trajectory of these pieces of iron changed slightly, but they still shot towards Sun Tze at an extremely fast speed. Naturally, the bullets were all empty. No, Sun Tze's expression changed greatly. He was originally less than 10 meters away from Tung Qingshan. When Tung Qingshan threw the flying knife, he immediately shot. When the flying knife broke, the distance between him and Tung Qingshan was only about 2 meters. 2 meters away, with the speed of the flying knife fragments, such a sudden change. Just when Sun Tze's nerves reacted, the flying knife fragments were already in front of his eyes. Pooh! 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 Among the flying knife fragments, 3 pieces directly pierced through Sun Tze's face and came out from the back of his skull. There was still disbelief in Sun Tze's eyes, but then they dimmed and lost their luster. His whole body softly fell to the ground. One of the 52 S-class killers in the dark world, the expert of 8 trigrams palm, sharpshooter Sun Tze, was dead. For experts of the internal style, the face was usually the weakest part of their defense. Unless they reached the Grandmaster realm, their whole body would have no weak points. For example, Sun Tze, who had not reached the Grandmaster realm, would definitely die. Pong! The Russian Dolgothrov encountered the same danger, but his luck was much better because he used his right fist to block the flying knife, and his left fist was habitually blocking his face. When 2 pieces of the broken flying knife shot toward his face, he easily blocked it with his left palm, which was wearing a boxing glove. You. The Russian looked at his dead partner, and then looked at Tung Qingshan in shock. Tung Qingshan's face finally showed a trace of a smile. Monkey! Dolgothrov looked at Sun Tze's body. Flying knife? How could the flying knife break? A flying knife broke by itself, for no reason. Tung Qingshan looked at the Russian, but his heart secretly let out a sigh of relief. Previously, in the battle inside the Red Organization's base, he fought fiercely against many killers. 2 fists could not fight against 4 hands, and he was about to be besieged to death, at the edge of life and death, in a desperate and gloomy state of mind. He actually discovered that under that special state of mind, under the special perception of the surrounding heaven and earth, he could actually have a strange trace of connection with the internal strength in the flying knife. With this trace of connection, he could completely control when the flying knife broke. When a flying knife was shot, when it was close to the enemy, it suddenly broke into a few pieces of broken iron. How could he react in time? For example, this Sun Tze, in a short distance of 2 meters, simply could not react at all, and his head was shot through. An absolute killing move. Although Tung Qingshan did not understand, under that kind of state of mind, how could there be a trace of connection with the internal strength in the flying knife? But Tung Qingshan remembered that state, remembered this move. At the same time, he named this move Mournful Knife. Wolf, accompany the monkey to the grave. The eyes of the Russian, Dolgothrov, were faintly red. Like an angry lion, he actually roared in a low voice. Within the range of sight, the black uniform of the Russian suddenly expanded by 1 size. This strong, killing machine stomped on the ground. The cement ground shook and cracked, as if a high-speed heavy truck was rushing over. Ha, good. Tung Qingshan laughed loudly. Instead of dodging, he went up to meet it. His feet continuously stomped on the ground, as if a giant was trampling, causing the cement ground to continuously crack. Tung Qingshan looked violent, but his figure was elegant like a swimming dragon. His left palm was placed horizontally in front of him, and his right fist was like a dragon striking. With his waist as the center, all the strength in his body was instantly concentrated on his right arm. Chi-chi, His right arm strangely expanded by one size. Blue veins bulged, as if they were about to explode. Each muscle was like a cow tendon, and a strong spiral force was produced. His right fist was like a rotating electric drill, producing a sharp whistling sound. Huh! Dolgotrov, this monster, suddenly jumped up. His right fist, which was covered with a metal glove, was raised high. Then, with a tremendous force, like a cannonball, fiercely smashed towards Tung Chingshan. Dolgotrov's huge fist, with a trace of shadow, collided with Tung Chingshan's fist. Dolgotrov clearly felt a strange force passing through the glove. Even his entire right arm could not help but twist, making a slight sound. Dolgotrov's complexion changed. Fortunately, he had a high achievement in ancient yoga, so he was able to resist this spiral force. If my strength was a little bit weaker, I'm afraid my arm would have been twisted off. Now, my right fist can only exert 80% of its strength. Dolgotrov was not feeling well, but Tung Chingshan's situation was even worse. At the moment when their fists collided, Tung Chingshan took advantage of the momentum and flew backwards. Dolgotrov laughed wildly. Without any hesitation, he quickly followed up. Chapter 7. Tung Chingshan's toes touched the ground, and he jumped to the side, easily pulling away from Dolgothrov. Coward, don't run if you have the guts. Dolgotrov was getting anxious. Tung Chingshan leaped onto the roof. In the short fight, just now, his fists weren't injured at all. His fists were tempered according to the secret method of iron palm. Their hardness was comparable to steel, adding internal strength. Even if they were to touch the metal gloves, it wouldn't be a problem. The real injury was on his upper arm. Tung Chingshan glanced at the upper part of his right arm. Inconspicuous spots of blood had already seeped out. Feeling the pain in his arm, Tung Chingshan had a bad feeling. This monster's body is too strong. My right arm was shot by Sun Tze earlier, and the muscles inside were already injured. Now, the injury is even more serious. My strength is greatly affected, and I only have half of my strength left. Throwing knives are useless against this monster. Tung Chingshan thought. The broken body machine Dolgothrov sneered. Tung Chingshan, if you are afraid, you can escape. It was not because Tetrov was pretending to be generous, but because, in terms of speed, he was not as fast as Tung Chingshan. If Tung Chingshan wanted to run, he could not stop him. However, in terms of strength, Dolgotrov was not afraid of Tung Chingshan at all. Although Tung Chingshan had the flying dagger consummate skill, the move Mournful Saber, although the shattering of the flying dagger was sudden and the direction was uncertain, it had its advantages and disadvantages. When the throwing knives were broken, the force was dispersed, and the fragments were not very strong. Unless the attack hit the weak parts of the face, it would not be effective against the Russian. Body-shattering machine, Dolgotrov had a strong body, and he wore a special combat suit. In addition, he was prepared for the Morning Blade. At the critical moment, he only needed to cover his face with his hand. As for the close combat between the two, although Tung Chingshan was a Xing E overlord, he was only one step away from the Grandmaster realm. But this Russian man is also very scary. Dolgotrov was born with extraordinary strength and once dominated the underground boxing world. His body was as strong as steel, and he also practiced ancient yoga, combining strength with softness. His strongest point was that he once obtained the secret manual of the joint technique by chance in China and successfully practiced it. This made Dolgotrov the most terrifying machine in close combat, and he was known as the body-shattering machine. He could be ranked among the S-level killers in the dark world. Scared, Tung Chingshan's fighting spirit rose. What a joke! After his wife's death, martial arts had become Tung Chingshan's only pursuit. Now, he was one step away from the Grandmaster realm, but this step was like a moat. It was extremely difficult to surpass it. On the other hand, in battles of life and death, it was possible to comprehend and surpass oneself to reach a new realm. Meeting a worthy opponent is something that can only be chanced upon. Without any worries, How could Tung Shan give up such a great opportunity? It's best if you don't run away. Go die with the monkey. Dolgotrov's figure was like lightning. He took 5 steps in a row, causing the ground to tremble and crack, and then he jumped up. Good timing. Tung Shan waved his hand and threw a flying knife. Bang! Dol Gothgrove, who had already prepared for this, stretched out his big hand and easily blocked the flying knife. The flying knife was broken into pieces. After blocking the flying knife, Dolgotrov was still in the air. Tung Shan swooped down with an indomitable momentum. His left hand turned and twisted in front of his eyebrows, and his right hand shot out like a cannonball, directly smashing toward Dolgotrov's head. Dolgotrov was calm. His huge fist was like a hammer, smashing toward Tung Shan's fist. Bang! Bang! Tung Shan's left fist and right fist intertwined crazily. One punch after another, making it hard for the eyes to see clearly. One could only see a series of fish shadows. Dolgotrov, who was jumping up, was beaten down to the ground. The cannon fist was like fire, fast like a meteor. As soon as Dolgotrov landed on the ground, he suddenly retreated. This guy's body is terrifyingly strong. Tung Shan was shocked. When he punched Tung Shan's body just now, it felt like he punched steel covered with a layer of cotton wool. His body is like steel, and he also practices ancient yoga. It's hard to seriously injure him. Tung Shan was shocked, but he didn't hesitate. Once he gained the upper hand, he immediately took advantage of the situation and continued to attack. Breathe, breathe. Dolgotrov's chest swelled and sunk, and his aura actually rose. He roared like a polar bear, and his violent fists smashed toward Tung Shan like cannonballs. Bang! Tung Shan's whole body was like a big bow that was bent to the limit. Even his back was trembling. He swung his hand, and his left fist burst out. The bang fist was like an arrow, with the momentum of a flying boat breaking the waves. Retreating was a bang fist, bending was a bang fist, and moving forward was also a bang fist. Tung Shan's whole body was like a swimming dragon, circling around Dolgotrov, cleverly dodging his opponent's heavy fists, and at the same time giving his opponent a heavy blow. Puff! Dolgotrov couldn't help but spit out blood from the corner of his mouth. His eyes flashed coldly. This wolf's internal martial arts is really strong. It even injured me. I only have one move left. Dolgotrov realized that if he didn't use the interlocking technique, it would be hard for him to win today. This monster, he took at least 8 bang fists from me, but he was only lightly injured. Tung Shan was also shocked. If it was him, after taking 8 bang fists, he would have been seriously injured. Dolgotrov's fingers grabbed Tung Shan's left wrist. Ha! Dolgotrov took advantage of the situation and suddenly pulled Tung Shan. At the same time, he habitually kicked with his left leg. In the black market martial arts, the kick was the most frightening move. Interlocking technique? Tung Shan only felt a pain in his wrist, as if a needle was pricking his wrist. Naturally, his internal strength shook, and the spiral force shook off the opponent's fingers. Immediately, like a loach, he slid back his left fist. His left fist had just escaped death, but the shadow of the leg had already arrived. That shadow of a leg, like a big guillotine, fiercely smashed onto Tung Shan's chest. Tung Shan's chest unexpectedly caved in by 3 inches. He avoided the strongest attack, but the shadow of the leg still hit his chest. Only the sound of bones cracking could be heard. Tung Shan's whole body vomited blood and was thrown into the air. Not good. Tung Shan fell on the ground, his face pale. The earth trembled. Dolgotrov was like a high-speed road roller, laughing and rushing over. Tung Shan's eyes were red. His whole body fell on the ground. Both of his hands suddenly grabbed the ground, his 10 fingers directly inserted into the cement floor. Both of his feet suddenly stepped on the ground. His whole body was like a stone that was shot by a catapult, bursting out. His right fist made a big arc, smashing towards Dolgotrov. Dolgotrov suddenly kicked towards Tung Shan. Pung! Tung Shan's right fist turned into a palm and smashed onto Dolgotrov's calf bone. Tung Qingshan only felt pain in his palm. However, Tung Qingshan still took advantage of the momentum and smashed his right palm onto Dolgotrov's chest. Almost at the same time, Tung Qingshan's face suddenly turned red. With his waist as the center, he twisted, and almost all the muscle strength of his whole body was transferred to his left fist. The muscles of his entire left arm bulged, and blue veins popped out. His left fist, which was almost twice as fast as his right fist, almost attacked in a straight line towards Dolgotrov's chest. Ah! Dolgotrov roared and smashed a terrifying heavy fist towards Tung Qingshan's head. If this fist really smashed on Tung Qingshan's head, Tung Qingshan would definitely die. Pressing forward with indomitable will, fearless, at the moment when Tung Qingshan decided to win or lose, he actually felt the true artistic conception of this cannon fist. The power was transmitted along the bones of his entire left arm, bit by bit, and the strong power was transmitted from his shoulder to his fist. Roar! A low and weak tiger's roar actually sounded. Swish! Like a cannonball, Tung Qingshan's left fist directly hit Dolgotrov's chest like a meteor. The strong fist strength instantly broke Dolgotrov's sternum that was as hard as steel. His internal organs were also shattered, and his vitality was instantly cut off. Dolgotrov's body shook. The heavy fist that was smashing towards Tung Qingshan's head lost its strength and fell on Tung Qingshan's head. Not even the skin was injured. Dolgotrov's eyes were still filled with disbelief. It was as if he couldn't believe that with his defense, he was actually killed by a punch. Immediately after, his eyes dimmed, and he suddenly collapsed. Puff! Tung Qingshan couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood. Just now, Dolgotrov's sweeping kick broke two of his sternum and injured his internal organs. In that kind of situation, Tung Qingshan couldn't fight for a long time. Therefore, in one go, he displayed his strongest and most dangerous move. Tiger Cannon Fist. In the Xing E5 elements boxing, the chopping fist was like an axe, the bursting fist was like an arrow, the drilling fist was like an awl, the horizontal fist was like a beam, and the cannon fist was like a cannon. The cannon fist should be the most powerful of the 5 elements boxing. The Tiger Cannon Fist was created by combining the tiger form and cannon fist, and its power was even greater. It was a unique skill of Xing Yi passed down from the Tang family. Although the Tiger Cannon Fist was the most powerful, it also had advantages and disadvantages. The disadvantage was that after using the strongest punch, it couldn't be changed in time. If the opponent couldn't be killed, the opponent could easily seize the opportunity to kill him. Originally, even with the power of the Tiger Cannon Fist, it was impossible to kill the monstrous Dolgotrov. Who would have thought, at the edge of life and death, Tung Qingshan unexpectedly touched the threshold of Xing Yi martial arts master realm? Xing Yi martial arts, Xing Yi, was like the shape but emphasized the meaning. The shape was secondary, and the meaning was more important. The symbol of reaching the master realm was to be able to perfectly use the strength of every muscle, the strength of every bone. When the strength of the bones was used to the extreme, when vibrating, it could produce an incredible animal roar. For example, just now when using the Tiger Cannon Fist, there was a tiger roar sound. Just now, that was Tung Qingshan's eyes lit up, his face was full of surprise. Ever since his wife died, he had never been so excited. The goal of a strong internal practitioner was to reach the master realm, to be able to perfectly control the strength of every muscle in the body, the strength of the bones, the internal strength running through the meridians of the body. Every punch and kick could even produce the sound of tiger roar. However, Tung Qingshan only used his strongest punch, the Tiger Cannon Fist, to barely produce the sound. He hadn't truly stepped into the master realm. That feeling, Tung Qingshan's mind clearly remembered the concept of that punch. Recalling that concept, Tung Qingshan couldn't help but smile. His breathing became chaotic, and he immediately felt a pain in his chest. He couldn't help but cough. His eyes swept the surroundings. I am seriously injured. I can't stay here anymore. A crafty rabbit has 3 burrows. Tung Qingshan had already prepared a deal with the enemy. Naturally, he rented a few places in Yangzhou City. He didn't enter the house. With one hand pressing on his chest, he directly rushed to the side of the courtyard wall. With one hand, he jumped and left. Only the courtyard was left in a mess. The two S-rank killers, sharpshooter Sun Tze and body-shattering machine Dolgotron, were lying on the ground without any signs of life. Chapter 8. P.S. Now is the new book release period. Tomato needs everyone's support. Give as many recommendation votes as you can to Tomato. On the highway, a black Audi A6 was speeding all the way to the north. There were two people in the car. One was the driver, and the other was sitting in the back. He was tall and looked to be in his 30s. His face looked similar to Tung Qingshan. Buzz, his phone vibrated. The tall man took out his phone. "Hello, Yang, what's up?" The tall man's face changed. "What did you say? How is that possible?" The tall man couldn't believe it. "Okay, I understand." The tall man nodded. "I'm already on my way back to Yangzhou City." "I know, I understand." "Don't worry, Yang. Don't you know what kind of person Qin Hong, am? Don't worry, I know my limits. I won't act rashly. No matter how daring I am, I wouldn't dare to take the lives of my brothers as a joke." "Yes, I understand." The tall man Qin Hong hung up his phone. His face sank. "Qin, what happened?" The driver in the front asked. "The situation is not good. In our small Yangzhou city, something big happened that caught the attention of the entire underworld." Qin Hong said in a low voice. "What happened?" The driver asked. Qin Hong explained in detail. 2 days ago, two of the underworld's top S-level assassins, sharpshooter Sun Tze and body crusher Dolgotron, were chasing another S-level assassin, throwing knife, Lone Wolf. These three super experts had a great battle. The result was shocking. This throwing knife, Lone Wolf, killed the other two. "What?" the driver exclaimed. "How can this throwing knife, Lone Wolf, be so powerful?" The underworld has already designated throwing knife Lone Wolf as the #1 S-level assassin among the 50 S-level assassins. He is known as an SS-level assassin. Maybe he has the strength of an SS-level assassin. Qin Hong said in a low voice. "My God, this level assassin in Yangzhou City, isn't it the same as a human-shaped nuclear bomb in the city?" The driver was also scared. Be it S-rank or SS rank, they weren't something they could resist. It's very troublesome. There are only 8 SS rank assassins in the entire underworld, and any one of them has already surpassed the limits of the human body, reaching an unimaginable realm. Ordinary bullets and other weapons were useless against them. And even if we use powerful weapons, with their speed and reflexes, they will dodge before we can even raise our weapons. Qin Hong understood the meaning of SS rank very well. If the S-class was said to be the limit of the human body, they could run amok in the city and pose an extremely high threat. Even if the special forces were dispatched, they could still be suppressed. This SS class had already surpassed the limits of the human body and reached the pinnacle of the human world. It could be said to be an existence akin to a human-shaped nuclear bomb. One of the strongest cultivators in the world was in Yangzhou City. He was only the leader of the special task force in Yangzhou City. How could he dare to provoke him? If a small team went over, they would probably be killed by a few flying knives before they could even open fire. They were not on the same level at all. "Qin, what should we do?" The driver was also worried. "What can we do?" Qin Hong took a deep breath and said in a low voice, "According to the intelligence, this flying knife Lone Wolf is a Chinese. Moreover, with his level of super strong cultivator, he shouldn't be crazy enough to start a massacre. If he is in Yangzhou City, even if we find him, at most we can only follow him from afar. We must not provoke him." The driver nodded. Qin Hong frowned and looked at his cell phone in puzzlement. His cell phone was issued by the Special Department of the State Security. At this moment, he received a message. "Not good." Qin Hong's face instantly turned pale. "What's the matter?" the driver nervously asked. "Our Yangzhou City is going to become the center of the underworld." Qin Hong's forehead was sweating. "What's wrong?" The driver was also worried. The headquarters just sent a message. This time, the Redmayne family spared no expense and asked the world's #1 organization, Divine Kingdom, to come out. The two of the Divine Kingdom, three giants Vishnu and Shiva, have already set out to kill Flying Knife Lone Wolf. Qin Hong was completely shocked. The driver was so shocked that his heart was trembling. There were a total of 8 SS-level assassins in the world. Among them, the Divine Kingdom organization had 3. These 3 people's names were Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. These 3 names were actually the 3 supreme gods in Indian mythology. This was also the recognized name of the underworld. From this, one could imagine how scary these 3 people were. As for the real names of these 3 people, it was never made public. 2 of the 3 giants of the Divine Kingdom actually dared to come here. Qin Hong frowned. In the underworld, China enjoyed a special status because there were too many experts in China. Among the 8 SS-level assassins, 3 of them were Chinese. At the same time, although there were very few masters of internal martial arts, there were still some in China. Every master of internal martial arts was comparable to an SS-level assassin. Therefore, many experts in the underworld called China an ancient country and a magical country. There was a trace of awe in their hearts. For example, the Red Organization originally sent their assassins to the Xing Yi master Tung Bo Lei to be taught by him. Although Tung Bo Lei had to be taught for some special reasons, he usually chose the Chinese, and most of them were only accepted as disciples in name. Qin, 2 SS-level assassins, are chasing a quasi-SS-level assassin. If they die together, it will be fine, but if it affects the civilians, it will be terrible. The driver was also worried. At the moment of crisis, even if we have to sacrifice our lives, we can't let them affect the civilians. Qin Hong took a deep breath. But don't worry too much. These people won't slaughter the civilians. What we need to do now is to wait, watch, and hope that they will leave the mainland as soon as possible. The driver nodded. Against the SS-level assassins, who were like human nuclear bombs, the country would not deal with them unless it was necessary. But once the country decided to deal with them, they would definitely gather enough forces and only act when they were sure that they could kill them in one fell swoop. After all, if the SS-level assassins were not killed in one shot, there would be endless troubles in the future. The Redmayne family also knew about Tung Qingshan's amazing strength and began to be afraid. That was why they desperately asked the Divine Kingdom to take action. Within 3 days, all the elite members of our Special Operation Group in Jiangsu will gather in Yangzhou City, and be careful, Qin Hong said in a low voice. As the two talked, the car had already left the highway and was heading towards Yangzhou City. Jun, Flying Knife, Lone Wolf, 2 of the 3 leaders of the Divine Kingdom, Shiva and Vishnu, as well as other information, have been sent to your phone. When you go back, look carefully. Don't run into them on the road. You don't know them. Qin Hong reminded. The young driver turned on his phone, looked down, and glanced at it. I haven't seen their faces yet. Hey, this Flying Knife Lone Wolf looks a bit like you, Qin. Yes, I think so too. Qin Hong glanced at the image on the phone. That was the image of Tung Qingshan's face. Although the previous battle had shaken the entire dark world, and even made Tung Qingshan known as an SS-level killer, Tung Qingshan himself lived in seclusion in a remote residential area in the suburbs of Yangzhou City. He didn't pay attention to the outside world and focused on healing his wounds and practicing martial arts. In the quiet courtyard, Tung Qingshan, who was wearing a long black robe, was practicing the Xing E3 postures. The 3 postures were the basic of Xing E boxing. There was a saying that all skills originated from the 3 postures. Beginners needed to practice it, and so did Xing E masters. Even those who had reached the Grandmaster realm needed to practice it. The 3 postures were simple, and it was more suitable for Tung Qingshan, who was seriously injured. Every move was performed by Tung Qingshan smoothly, and it was like a piece of art, giving people the enjoyment of beauty. As the saying goes, it takes 100 days to recover from an injury, and a normal person can recover from a fracture in 3 months. Of course, comminuted fractures were extremely troublesome. However, Tung Qingshan had 1 foot in the door of the Grandmaster realm. His physical quality was far superior to ordinary people, and his control of his body's qi and blood had reached an incredible level. In addition, he persisted in practicing the 3 postures with his breathing every day, so his recovery speed was several times faster than ordinary people. As for the torn muscles in his arms and abdomen, his recovery speed was even faster. 21 days later, his body had completely recovered. I've been living in seclusion here these days, focusing on healing my wounds and practicing. I haven't been to the city, and I don't know if Qinghe has returned. Tung Qingshan thought to himself. Tung Qingshan was very wise. He, who was injured before, couldn't deal with all the crazy killers. Therefore, he chose to hide. The Dark Hand organization was powerful, but Tung Qingshan hid in the residential area and didn't show up at all. It wasn't easy for them to find him. After practicing for 21 days, I finally opened up all the meridians in my body, and my inner strength can flow through every part of my body. Tung Qingshan revealed a smile. After fighting with Sun Zhe and Dolgotrov, the Tiger Cannon Fist, Tung Qingshan touched the door of the Grandmaster realm. After practicing for 21 days, his physical quality gradually improved. The last meridians were completely opened, and his inner strength could easily reach every part of his body. Today, Tung Qingshan was a real Grandmaster. The human body had 8 extraordinary meridians, 12 standard meridians, and many small, unknown meridians. The practice of internal martial arts was to open up every meridian in the body, including those small meridians. In fact, during the process of improvement, the physical quality was also constantly improving. A Grandmaster is a Grandmaster. Although my physical quality only increased by 20 to 30% in the past 21 days, my strength has increased by several times. Tung Qingshan knew that the reason why Grandmasters were so powerful was because they were more powerful in the use of their power. With the same body, an internal martial arts ultimate master could have an attack of 1 ton, but a Grandmaster could have an attack of 3 to 4 tons. Chapter 9. When I was 7 years old, I received hellish training in the Siberian training camp. At that time, my body was not developed yet. That kind of squeezing training had a great impact on my body. Later, I practiced internal martial arts under my master. But my body was too weak when I was young, so my potential was not high. Even if I reached the limit of internal martial arts, the limit of the human body, compared to Dolgoth Grove and the others, their physical quality is still much worse. Before entering the Grandmaster realm, people could only reach the limit of their body and could not surpass it. Training needed to be done in a certain degree. Just like some athletes, in order to achieve good results, they trained hard every day to win medals and rankings. When they were young, they dominated the competition. But many of them became middle-aged and their bodies collapsed. Of course, the degree of training for athletes was not exaggerated. Just like some Muay Thai trainers, some of them were pure lunatics like machines. When they were 20 years old, they were very scary. But many of them could not even live past 40 years old. Even if they lived longer, they might need to use crutches. Because their potential was squeezed out too much, even their vitality was consumed in advance. But internal martial arts was different. China's internal martial arts was magical because the main purpose of internal martial arts was not to kill people, but to preserve health. Preserve health first, then kill. Like Muay Thai experts, they could not survive until they were 40 years old. But for the internal martial arts experts, 40 years old was their peak. Especially the Grandmasters of internal martial arts. Even if they were 80 or 90 years old, they still had frightening strength. Any internal martial arts Grandmaster, as long as they did not die in a fight, could usually live more than 100 years old. This showed the effect of internal martial arts in preserving health. Of course, in the international arena, Indian yoga, which had a long history, also had magical effects. Although it could not be compared to internal martial arts was more difficult and ancient yoga was less difficult. Therefore, there were more people who practiced ancient yoga. Of course, Most of the SS level or Grandmaster level experts in the world practiced internal martial arts. Once you reach the Grandmaster realm, you can surpass the limit of the human body. Tung Shan could not help but smile. The limit of internal martial arts was to completely control every muscle. On the other hand, the Grandmaster realm allowed one to control the strength of one's muscles, tendons, and bones. This was also the reason why the Grandmaster realm experts were able to exert more power despite having the same body. However, if I practice the 3 postures, 5-element boxing, and 12 forms step by step every day to strengthen my bones, increase the tenacity of my fascia, and increase the density of my muscles, the speed is too slow. Tung Shan sighed. Fortunately, Master taught me the strongest secret technique of Xing Yi Fist, the godly tiger form technique. There were many types of internal martial arts in China. In addition to the 3 major internal martial arts, there were also 8 extremes fist, 5 ancestors fist, Hong fist, penetrating fist, Wing Chun fist, and many other types of martial arts. But why were Xing Yi martial arts, Ba Guazhong, and Tai Chi fist known as the 3 great internal martial arts, while the other internal martial arts were inferior? The other fist types could not reach the Grandmaster realm? No, the other sects also had Grandmasters, and there were many people learning from them. The real difference was the difference between Grandmasters. The 3 great Grandmasters of internal martial arts were generally stronger than other Grandmasters of internal martial arts. This was because after the other internal martial arts reached the Grandmaster realm, they had to slowly improve step by step. However, the 3 major internal martial arts sects each had their own secret techniques. After reaching the Grandmaster realm, one could only practice these secret techniques. They could help a Grandmaster's strength increase rapidly, and only Grandmasters could practice them. They were the secret technique of Xing Yi martial arts, godly tiger form technique, the secret technique of Tai Chi fist, black tortoise boulder energy, and the secret technique of Ba Guazhong, ichthyosaur transformation. The godly tiger form technique was passed down by the Xing Yi martial arts Grandmaster Jijike during the end of the Ming Dynasty. Legend has it that Grandmaster Jijike raised a tiger, and he even slept with the tiger. After observing it for a long time, he finally created this unprecedented secret technique at the age of 100, godly tiger form technique. Speaking of bones, tiger bones were the most famous. Tiger bones soaked in wine were the most nourishing. From this, it could be seen how powerful tiger bones were. Practicing godly tiger form technique was to be like a tiger and increase the density of the muscles and bones. To practice godly tiger form technique, one must reach the Grandmaster realm and be proficient in the 12 tiger form technique. Only then could one practice godly tiger form technique. This secret technique could only be taught to the core disciples of the Xing Yi martial arts sect. Let's try it out first. Tung Shan suddenly laid down, like a tiger in human form lying on the ground. Although he was lying on the ground, in reality, only his feet and hands touched the ground. The other parts of his body did not touch the ground. The muscles of his body could not tremble, and he also needed to control his breathing and inner strength. Sometimes his back was slightly arched, and sometimes he bent down. His spine was like a dragon, rising and hiding. During the process of his spine rising and hiding, the muscles of his hands and feet were also operating. Breathing and the circulation of inner strength had to be perfectly coordinated with his movements. The power was transmitted from the bones of his 10 fingers to the bones of his arms, and then to his body. Breathing also caused the movement of his internal organs. The powerful energy of the inner strength also caused the muscles and bones to tremble. Tung Shan constantly adjusted, trying his best to reach the level recorded in godly tiger form technique. The movements looked simple, but in reality, it was very complicated. It was more difficult than practicing the entire 12 forms of Xing Yi martial arts. If there was a slight error in the breathing, it would be a mistake. If there was a slight error in the control of the inner strength, it would also be wrong. He tested and adjusted again and again. Body movement, breathing, circulation of inner strength, control of the muscles and bones, many aspects cooperated, and he constantly adjusted until it was perfect. Who? Tung Chingshan's body actually made a sound similar to a tiger snoring. It was not snoring, but the sound made by Tung Chingshan's joints colliding and trembling. What a wonderful feeling. Tung Chingshan felt as if he had transformed into a tiger, lying here and sleeping. At the beginning, he still needed to work hard, deliberately controlling his bones, muscles, breathing, inner strength, and many other aspects. But later, he naturally entered that state. His whole body was numb, and his bones were itchy. It was that kind of feeling. Unknowingly, a day had passed after this training. Hey, Tung Chingshan turned over and stood up, feeling the strength in his body. His eyes couldn't help but light up. I didn't expect that one day of training would improve so much. My physical fitness has improved by at least 10 to 20%. Tung Chingshan could clearly feel the extent of this improvement. He also knew that the improvement was the most obvious at the beginning of training. The further one went, the lower the improvement would be. The godly tiger form technique created by Ji Zushi is indeed incredible. The movements seem simple, but in fact, it is extremely complicated. Just taking the sleeping posture of a tiger, it is 10 times, no, 100 times more complicated than the whole tiger form fist of the 12 forms. The body movement, breathing coordination, circulation of inner strength, control of muscles and bones, and many other aspects. I don't know how long Ji Zushi experimented to create it. Tung Chingshan was very emotional, although the first generation of Xingyi fist was not determined. But Ji Jike was the grandmaster with the highest status in the history of Xingyi fist. Many people of Xingyi sect called him Ji Zushi. Time passed day by day. Tung Chingshan was completely immersed in the godly tiger form technique. His physical fitness was also improving at an amazing speed. This amazing speed of improvement also made Tung Chingshan admire Ji Zushi even more. In the blink of an eye, half a month had passed. During the half a month of practicing the godly tiger form technique, his physical fitness could improve by 10 to 20% at the beginning. By the 15th day, the improvement was almost undetectable. However, in these 15 days, Tung Chingshan's physical fitness could be said to have improved by 2 times compared to 15 days ago. Although his physical fitness had improved by 2 times, his strength had improved by more than 2 times. I have been immersed in the practice of the godly tiger form technique, and I have forgotten to see my brother Qinghe. Tung Chingshan couldn't help but smile. In fact, when Tung Chingshan fled to the country, he was worried that he would die in the hands of the sharpshooter and the body crusher. Therefore, he was eager to see his brother Qinghe before the battle. But now, after reaching the Grandmaster realm, Tung Chingshan, who practiced the godly tiger form technique, could be said to be standing at the peak of the world. His strength was more than 10 times stronger than before his breakthrough. Naturally, Tung Chingshan didn't feel a sense of urgency, so he didn't rush to see his brother. First, I need to understand the situation outside. Tung Chingshan entered the house, turned on the computer, connected to the broadband, and then used the same method as last time to contact Elena. Elena, Tung Chingshan typed on the keyboard. After a moment, Wolf, you finally contacted me. It's been more than a month, and I was worried that you were dead. Far away in London, England, Elena sat barefoot in front of the computer, swinging her white feet, typing on the keyboard, venting her dissatisfaction. I'm recuperating. Tung Chingshan smiled and typed on the keyboard. Are your injuries healed? Elena asked worriedly. Completely healed. By the way, what's the situation outside now? Tung Chingshan asked. There was a trace of worry on Elena's face. She pondered for a moment and then typed on the keyboard. Wolf, you're very powerful. You can actually kill both Sun Tze and Dolgotroff. You're now listed as the first among the 50 S-level killers, and you're called the Quasi-SS Killer. Aren't you very proud? But I have to tell you a terrible news. Say it. Tung Chingshan raised his eyebrows. Maybe the Redmayne family is angry, Or maybe your strength has improved so much that the Redmayne family is worried that you'll take revenge on them. In short, the Redmayne family has spent a lot of money to invite the world's #1 organization, Divine Kingdom, to come out. 2 of the 3 giants of the Divine Kingdom, Shiva and Vishnu, are probably in China now, searching for your traces. The expression on Tang Qingshan's face finally changed. 2 of the 3 giants of the Divine Kingdom? Even though his strength has improved greatly, Tang Qingshan couldn't help but be shocked. The 3 giants of the Divine Kingdom. These 3 people are called gods. Of course, these 3 people are SS-level killers, absolute masters of the Master Realm. Moreover, the 3 giants of the Divine Kingdom have stepped into the Master Realm for many years. Stepping into the Master Realm for many years and just entering the Master Realm are 2 different concepts. Although Tang Qingshan, because of practicing the godly tiger form technique, has doubled his physical fitness, which is almost the achievement of an ordinary Master Realm in a lifetime. But the enemy is 2 of the 3 giants, the legend of invincibility in the Dark World. For so many years, no one has been able to kill any one of the 3 giants. This time they actually invited them, and 2 of them set out together to deal with me. They really think highly of me. Although Tang Qingshan felt pressured, a hint of fighting spirit rose from the bottom of his heart. Tang Qingshan didn't know that the reason why the 3 giants of the Divine Kingdom sent 2 people was that they were worried that Tang Qingshan had a master in China. If another master of the Xing Yi sect came out to help Tang Qingshan, the 3 giants of the Divine Kingdom would be in danger. Therefore, they sent 2 people to kill Tang Qingshan together. If the 2 of them worked together, they could attack and defend, which was equivalent to adding a layer of insurance. The missions accepted by the Divine Kingdom have never failed. Chapter 10. He knew that 2 of the 3 giants of the world's #1 organization, Divine Kingdom, came to China and wanted to kill him. Tang Qingshan wasn't nervous at all. He was just looking forward to it. After reaching the Master Realm and practicing godly tiger form, Tang Qingshan's strength was more than 10 times stronger than before. If he met Magasawa and Dol Gothgrove now, he could easily kill them with his hands and feet. Experts were lonely. It was extremely difficult to find an opponent who was on par with them. 3 giants, the legend of invincibility? The legend will be destroyed in my hands. Tang Qingshan left his house early in the morning and called a taxi. Go to the old city Willow Tea House. Do you know it? Tang Qingshan got in the car and said to the taxi driver. The driver smiled and said, Yes, I have been in Yangzhou for dozens of years. How can I not know this old place, Willow Tea House? Don't worry, we will be there in 10 minutes. Sure enough, 10 minutes later, Tang Qingshan arrived at Willow Tea House. A white Audi was driving on the street of the old city. Lin Qing was sitting in the co-driver's seat. Hi, Sister Lin. Have you met Tang Qingshan these days? The driver was Xiao Min. Lin Qing shook his head. It has been more than a month. No news at all. Forget it. I don't want to bring trouble to him. Just treat it as a dream. Then he laughed at himself. I only have the right to dream. Suddenly the phone rang. Lin Qing took out the phone from his pocket. Hello. Lin Qing just opened his mouth. Then his face slightly changed. Tonight? Okay, see you at the old place. Hanging up the phone, Lin Qing's face was very ugly. Xiao Min peeked and whispered, Is it Li Shan? Who else but this guy? There was a trace of hatred in Lin Qing's eyes. It would be better if he died. Xiao Min also said helplessly, Humph, I want him to die, but this kind of scourge has a long life. Well, Min, stop at the Willow Tea House in front. I will get off there. Lin Qing said. Willow Tea House was not far away. The car slowly stopped. After Lin Qing got off, Xiao Min drove the car and left. Stepping into the Willow Tea House, the decorations of the tea house and the waiters were dressed like ancient waiters, giving off a simple and unadorned aura. However, Lin Qing was not in the mood to appreciate these things. Coming here was just to calm her down. Habitually, he went to the 2nd floor of the tea house. Glancing around, Lin Qing, who was originally depressed, suddenly brightened up. She breathed heavily and took 2 steps forward. Tung Ching Shan. Lin Qing? Tung Ching Shan was leisurely sipping his tea. He couldn't help but smile when he saw Lin Qing. Lin Qing sat opposite Tung Ching Shan and asked with some surprise and doubt, "What important things have you been doing these days? I haven't seen you around." This sentence revealed the fact that Lin Qing herself came to Willow Tea House every day. Her purpose was self-evident. "I'm busy with something," Tung Ching Shan said casually. "Lin Qing, are you always so carefree?" Tung Ching Shan asked. Lin Qing smiled faintly and said, "The company's matters are also very simple. Most of the matters can be solved by the people below. You only look for me when something big happens. By the way, Tung Ching Shan, you were in Yi County, but now you are in Yangzhou City. Doesn't your wife worry about you and urge you to go home?" "Home?" Tung Ching Shan's heart was touched. "Do I have a home? When I was a child, the orphanage was my home. Grandma Dean was there, and my younger brother Qinghe was there. Later, I became an assassin. As long as I was with Kitten, anywhere was my home. What about now? Do I still have a home?" Tung Ching Shan couldn't help but touch the small tripod that he was wearing on his chest. That was the relic of his wife Kitten. Tung Ching Shan? Lin Qing saw Tung Ching Shan was in a daze, so she couldn't help but shout. Tung Ching Shan looked up at her and said, "My wife, she is dead." "Dead?" Lin Qing stared. It was surprising that he had a wife at such a young age, but even his wife was dead. It was even more incredible. "Don't ask." Tung Ching Shan frowned slightly. Lin Qing also knew the ways of the world. She understood that he had a wife at such a young age, and his wife was dead. In addition, Tung Ching Shan was good at fighting, so there must be a big secret. "Tung Ching Shan, do you know Yangzhou City? Have you been to Slender West Lake? Where is it?" Lin Qing began to change the topic. Tung Ching Shan also casually chatted with Lin Qing. But Tung Ching Shan's attention was almost on his younger brother Qinghe's home. Sometimes he glanced at it. As long as someone walked past the door of Qinghe's home, Tung Ching Shan would notice it. At about 10:30 in the morning, a black Audi A6 drove to the door of Qinghe's house and stopped. A person walked out of the driver's seat. He was tall and strong. At a glance, he could see that he was almost 1.9 meters tall. From the other side of the driver's seat, a woman wearing a maternity dress with a big belly walked out. "Qinghe." Tung Ching Shan couldn't help but feel ecstatic. "It's Qinghe." Tung Ching Shan had some information about his younger brother Qinghe. He also knew what his younger brother Qinghe looked like now. In addition, Qinghe's face was somewhat similar to his own. Most importantly, the connection between the two bloodlines made Tung Ching Shan feel a sense of familiarity at first glance. "That is Qinghe's wife Li Ran, right?" Tung Ching Shan couldn't help but smile. Seeing his younger brother and his wife loving each other, Tung Ching Shan was also very happy. "Xiao Ran, I'll carry the things. You hold your belly up and don't move." At this moment, the tall and strong Qin Hong opened the trunk and took out 2 big boxes. "I'm fine." Li Ran touched her belly with a smile on her face. Qin Hong habitually glanced around. But just this glance made him notice that there was a person staring at him from the window on the 2nd floor of the Willow Tea House opposite. Especially the person's appearance. It made Qin Hong feel as if a bucket of ice water had been poured on him. "Wolf!" Lone Wolf of the Flying Dagger. Qin Hong was so shocked that his heart suddenly twitched. Although they had received the news more than a month ago, the elites who had been on guard for a long time had not found any trace of Lone Wolf of the Flying Dagger. They also did not find any trace of the 2 big shots of the Divine Kingdom organization. This made Qin Hong's spirit slightly relaxed. He thought that the Flying Dagger Lone Wolf had already left Yangzhou. "He's still here." Qin Hong immediately calmed down. At this time, Qin Hong was shocked to find that the Flying Dagger Lone Wolf actually nodded and smiled at him. Qin Hong also pretended to be very natural and responded to Tung Ching Shan with a smile. "Come, let's go inside." Qin Hong did not dare to hesitate and immediately quickly brought his wife into the house. On the 2nd floor of the tea house, Tung Ching Shan was very happy. He could not help but reveal a smile on his face. "Qinghe, I finally see my younger brother." "Qinghe, Haha, I didn't expect my sister-in-law to be pregnant. That's great. His younger brother, Chingha, was his only family. He had not seen him for 22 years, and now he could see him again. Moreover, his younger brother was living such a happy life. Tung Shan was happy from the bottom of his heart. My younger brother is living a happy life. Now, I no longer have any worries. Tung Shan was relaxed and happy deep in his heart. His wish of 22 years had finally been fulfilled. He did not intend to talk to his younger brother, Chingha, nor did he intend to recognize him as a brother, because he did not want Chingha to know that he had such an older brother. After all, he, Tung Shan, had many enemies, such as the Redmayne family. Especially after so many years of being an assassin, he had made many enemies. Although Chingha was also a member of the country's special department, the circle that Tung Shan was involved in was the pinnacle of the human world. There were many experts and powerful enemies. Once the enemy found out, it would be very easy for them to kill Chingha to vent their anger. Chingha, Tung Shan looked at his younger brother's residence and could only silently bless him in his heart. After Qin Hong and his wife, Li Ran, entered the bedroom, Li Ran was about to open the curtains and open the windows. Don't open the curtains. Qin Hong let out a long sigh of relief. What's wrong? Li Ran finally noticed that something was wrong. The person on the second floor of Willow Tea House just now was the flying knife, Lone Wolf. Qin Hong whispered. Li Ran was also shocked. She was Qin Hong's wife and also a member of the special operations team. Of course, she knew a lot of secrets. The flying knife, Lone Wolf. You said that the flying knife, Lone Wolf, was just beside you? Li Ran did not see Tung Shan before. Qin Hong nodded and said in a deep voice, Xiao Ran, that's enough. The flying knife, Lone Wolf, is a terrifying person that we can't deal with. Immediately, Qin Hong took out his phone and dialed a number. Hello, Yang, it's me. I found a flying knife, Lone Wolf. Yes, he's in the tea house not far from my house. I know. I won't act rashly. Okay, I'll wait for Yang to arrange everything. Okay, I understand. Immediately, Qin Hong hung up the phone. How is it? What did Yang say? Li Ran asked. Qin Hong smiled helplessly. What else could he say? Yang told us not to do anything. He personally arranged the people. There's no other way. After all, the flying knife Lone Wolf is too powerful. People like them know that someone is tracking them, but they can still drink tea freely. Why? Because they are fearless. Qin Hong suddenly frowned. Xiao Ran, I remember that just now. The flying knife Lone Wolf smiled at me. Chapter 11. He smiled at you? Li Ran was surprised. Yes, I don't know why, but I can feel that this Lone Wolf doesn't have any malicious intent. Qin Hong was puzzled. Actually, I always feel that this Lone Wolf gives me a familiar feeling, as if I've seen him somewhere before. But no matter how I think about it, I can't remember. If you can't remember, then don't think about it. Li Ran said. Just after a moment, someone knocked on the door. Yang should be here. I'll go open the door. Qin Hong immediately went to the living room, looked outside through the peephole, and then opened the door. Outside the door was a gentle-looking man wearing glasses. He was about 1.75 meters tall. After this man came in, Qin Hong immediately closed the door. At this time, Li Ran came out from the bedroom. Yang, Li Ran greeted with a smile. Little Ran, you are pregnant, don't run around. Rest well. This Yang said with a smile. This Yang, whose real name is Yang Yun, is the person in charge of the entire Special Operation Group in Jiangsu. His strength is also very high. This time, because it involves the Lone Wolf, and the two giants of the Divine Kingdom, almost all the members of the Special Operation Group in Jiangsu are gathered in Yangzhou. This Yang Yun looked at Qin Hong. Qin Hong, you said that you saw the Lone Wolf. Go and see if he is still there. Qin Hong nodded, walked to the living room window, and looked through the blinds. Yang, he is still there. Qin Hong's voice just fell, and Yang Yun immediately followed. Yang, look on the second floor of the tea house opposite. That's the biggest window. That man is the Lone Wolf. Sitting opposite him is a woman. Qin Hong frowned. Hey, it's her? Her. Yang Yin was somewhat surprised. Yes, I didn't carefully observe the woman before. I didn't expect it to be her. This woman is called Lin Qing. She is one of the more famous people in our Yangzhou city. Yangzhou city was not small, but it was not big either. Qin Hong knew all the famous people like the back of his hand. Yang Yin nodded. Then, she took out her phone and made a call. Chin-san, bring your team over and gather at the White Cloud Cafe across from Qin Hong's house. I have an important mission for you. Yang Yin hung up the phone. Qin Hong, you stay here. Don't go anywhere. After Yang Yin finished, he immediately left Qin Hong's residence. In the private room of the White Cloud Cafe, there was only Yang Yin and a seemingly simple and honest middle-aged man. Listening to the report coming from the earpiece, the seemingly simple and honest middle-aged man nodded and said, Chief Yang, that flying knife lone wolf and that Lin Qing guy have already left Willow Tea House. One of my team members is in charge of following Lin Qing. The other 4 will follow that flying knife lone wolf. Yang Yin didn't say anything. He just waited silently. After a while, the middle-aged man smiled helplessly and said, Chief Yang, flying knife lone wolf has disappeared. Just as I expected. Yang Yin shook his head and smiled. This flying knife lone wolf can be said to be the strongest person in the world. He was also a former assassin. He is definitely an expert in concealment, tracking, and anti-tracking. It's extremely difficult to follow him. Forget it. Chin-san, your team will keep an eye on that Lin Qing. Maybe you can find a breakthrough from Lin Qing. Yes. Chin-san immediately responded. In the old alley, Tung Qingshan walked as if he was taking a stroll. The person who followed me should be from the same organization as my brother. Tung Qingshan guessed. With my brother's identity, he should be able to find out my identity as Flying Knife Lone Wolf. Tung Qingshan didn't care at all. In his eyes, that kind of ordinary agent was no different from an ordinary person. Tung Qingshan's ears twitched slightly. He immediately sped up. When he came to a corner, there was a skinny man wearing a hat in the alley in front of him. The reason why Tung Qingshan didn't stay at Willow Tea House for long was to follow this skinny man. However, with Tung Qingshan's strength, he didn't need to use his eyes to see. He could just rely on his ears to not be afraid of losing the person. This morning, this kid passed by my brother's residence 3 times. He changed his clothes every time. Moreover, he carefully observed my brother's residence every time. I don't think he has good intentions. Tung Qingshan's attention was focused on his brother's residence. He also observed the people who passed by. With his specially trained memory, as long as he saw someone once, he definitely wouldn't forget, especially the person in front. His disguise ability was so bad. Moreover, this person's eyes don't look right. He seems to be wary of everything around him. As a top assassin, Tung Qingshan could easily find a lot of weaknesses in the other party. Obviously, the other party's disguise ability was too bad. Judging that the other party should have bad intentions towards his brother, how could Tung Qingshan let him go so easily? His brother Qinghe was his only family. He followed the skinny man all the way, but he didn't notice Tung Qingshan behind him at all. Soon, the skinny man came to a 6-story residential building in a small area and went up the stairs. Tung Qingshan listened at the stairs. 3rd floor, the one on the left. Tung Qingshan easily identified the location of the other party by listening to the sound. He immediately went up the stairs to the door of the 3rd floor and pressed his ear against the wooden door. The sound inside the house was weak, but Tung Qingshan could hear it clearly. Hi, Boss Lee, I've already checked the place. You didn't tell me that this Qin Hong has a pregnant wife. I'm going to kill Qin Hong. When the time comes, I'll definitely kill his wife. Otherwise, if his wife screams, I'll be discovered by the surrounding people. I'll be out of luck. You should increase the price by 100,000. For you, it's nothing. Tung Qingshan, who was outside the house, heard this, and his heart was filled with murderous intent. He wanted to kill his brother and his sister-in-law. In this world, his brother was his only family. He would never allow such a thing to happen. Haha, Boss Lee is indeed straightforward. No problem. Once I'm done, I'll leave immediately. Don't worry, this Qin Hong is powerful, but I already have a plan. He'll definitely die. All right, just wait for my good news. The man in the house hung up the phone. Tung Qingshan grabbed the door lock and shook it with his inner force. Then, he easily pushed the door open. The door was pushed open as if it wasn't locked. On the sofa in the living room, the lean man was leisurely lying on the sofa. He was humming a tuneless song and was holding the remote control in his hand. He had just turned on the TV. Then, the lean man glanced at the door. Unexpectedly, a young man wearing glasses pushed the door open and came in. That young man even casually closed the door. Who are you? The lean man was startled. He was still confused. Did I not close the door? Impossible. I can't be so careless. Who am I? Tung Qingshan smiled and walked over. The lean man's eyes flashed with ruthlessness. With lightning speed, he pulled out a pistol from his waist. However, the young man who had been standing at the door a moment ago had strangely appeared in front of him and grabbed his gun. Chi. The pistol's barrel was bent. The lean man's face changed. There was no doubt about the hardness of the pistol's barrel. A person could bend the gun barrel with just his hand strength. How could he resist such a person? This big brother, which path are you from? The lean man was so scared that his heart was trembling. He said, Brother, I, Chu Tian, have some reputation in the underworld. A while ago, I committed a crime in my hometown and was wanted. That's why I came to this precious place. If I have offended you in any way, big brother, shut up. Tung Qingshan said indifferently. This Chu Tian was so scared that he immediately shut up. I will ask you one question now, and you will answer one question. Tung Qingshan's voice was flat, but his cold eyes caused Chu Tian's heart to palpitate. Big brother, please speak. Chu Tian said, Are you planning to kill Qin Hong and his family? Tung Qingshan said indifferently. Chu Tian was startled. He couldn't help but hesitate. Gotcha. Chu Tian didn't even see the opponent move. He felt a pain in his right arm. The bones in his arm were actually broken. It was so painful that Chu Tian wanted to scream. But seeing the opponent's eyes, Chu Tian gritted his teeth and resisted the urge to scream. Because he understood, in this kind of situation, the more he screamed, the faster he would die. His forehead was sweating from the pain, but Chu Tian still said with a trembling voice, Yes, I committed a crime. Since I'm already a wanted criminal, a dead pig doesn't fear boiling water. So when I passed by Yangzhou, I did a job and left immediately. That Qin Hong is Big Brother's friend? If he is, then it's my fault. I won't say another word and will leave immediately. If Big Brother has any dissatisfaction, just let me know. Who told you to do it? Tung Qingshan's voice was still flat. This I can't say. Chu Tian squeezed out a smile. This is against the rules, Katja. In an instant, the bones in his left arm were also broken. Whether it was the strength of the hand or the coldness, both made Chu Tian about to collapse. I said, I ask and you answer. I don't want to ask a second time. Otherwise, you know the consequences. Tung Qingshan said coldly. Who is Boss Li? You know. Hearing Tung Qingshan said Boss Li these three words, this fugitive Chu Tian couldn't help but be angry. You know, and you still ask me? But the bones in both arms were broken. Chu Tian basically didn't dare to say anything. Answer me, Tung Qingshan said. Chu Tian took a deep breath and endured the pain in his arms. Big brother, if I answer you, you can't kill me. If you don't promise, today you will torture me to death. I also won't say, said Chu Tian, clenched his teeth and stared at Tung Qingshan. Tung Qingshan just looked at him indifferently. Okay. Chu Tian secretly let out a sigh. In his view, this kind of powerful person should be very important to the promise. The person who asked me to do it is the chairman of Ming Shan Group, Li Shan. That Li Shan is a famous person in the underworld. Very amazing. Chu Tian said. Li Shan, Ming Shan Group. Tung Qingshan remembered this name. Then Tung Qingshan waved his hand, his index finger and middle finger together to form a sword, directly pierced the fugitive's eyebrows. That Chu Tian only felt a pain in his head, his whole body became blurred. At the same time, He looked at Tung Ching Shan with horror and resentment. Then his eyes dimmed and completely lost the light. He hated Tung Ching Shan for not keeping his promise. Tung Ching Shan indifferently glanced at this person. Since the age of 7, he had been struggling in the pile of dead people. As the world's most terrible killer, since childhood, he was instilled with killing by any means possible. How could he let the opponent go because of a ridiculous promise? Not to mention that the opponent wanted to kill his brother's family. Anyone who threatened the life of his family, Tung Ching Shan absolutely would not let the opponent exist. Leaving a corpse, a twisted pistol, Tung Ching Shan left this room. Li Shan, Tung Ching Shan silently said in his heart. Chapter 12. Yangzhou City, next to the Slender West Lake, there's a villa community. The villas inside are almost more than 500 square meters. The lowest price is more than 10 million. And in the center of the community, there is a villa with the largest area, just adjacent to the workers' lake in the community. Moreover, the area of the workers' lake is designated as a private pond. The scenery is the most beautiful. The price is naturally the most expensive. This villa is the residence of Li Shan, the chairman of the Ming Shan Group. On the big balcony of the villa on the 3rd floor, there's an open-air pool. Li Shan is comfortably lying in the open-air pool, looking up at the stars in the sky. Li Shan usually likes to soak in the pool alone when he is thinking about problems. His body is comfortable, and his brain thinks quickly. This order is worth 1 billion. I must think of a way to grab this order. Li Shan frowned slightly. Li Shan suddenly felt a gust of wind blowing. The upper half of his body above the water can't help but slightly cold. He glanced, and his face suddenly changed. He saw a young man wearing black trousers and a blue shirt standing on the balcony. The person is Tung Ching Shan. Who are you? How did you come here? Li Shan was not flustered, he asked. At the same time, he directly walked out of the pool and tied the bath towel on his waist. Tung Ching Shan looked at Li Shan, examining him. Li Shan is about 40 years old, elegant, middle-aged man, with an extraordinary demeanor. If you don't know Li Shan, I am afraid it is difficult to see through him. Before Tung Ching Shan came, he also inquired about Li Shan's information through Elena. Li Shan, 43 years old this year. When he was young, he used to be a member of a thief gang. Later, he became the leader of this thief gang. With the money he stole as his first bucket of gold, he started to do business. Because he has people in both the underworld and the legal world, plus he also has a large number of people following him. This capital, it is a rapid growth. In the past 20 years, Li Shan's Ming Shan Group has assets of nearly 10 billion. I advise you not to use the gun hidden in the bath towel. Tung Ching Shan indifferently said. Li Shan's face changed. He quickly pulled out a pistol from the towel with his hand. He was involved in both the underworld and the legal world. His business had forced many families to break up, and his usury had caused many people to commit suicide. There were too many people who hated him. He usually carried his pistol with him all the time. As soon as Li Shan pulled out his gun, Tung Ching Shan, who was 10 meters away, was already in front of him. Li Shan was shocked by the opponent's speed. The pistol in his hand was already in Tung Ching Shan's hand. Only the sound of the gun parts colliding could be heard. The gun in his hand was dismantled into many parts. Tung Ching Shan smiled and grabbed the steel parts. They were twisted like fried dough twists. Tung Ching Shan casually threw them on the ground. Li Shan was so scared that his heart was beating faster, but he still forced himself to calm down and showed a friendly smile. Brother, you are really good. He had actually reached the 3rd floor without making a sound. I admire you. He could reach the 3rd floor without alerting the bodyguards and surveillance system. What kind of method was this? Twisting steel into fried dough twists. What kind of method was this? Now I want to ask you a few questions. Tung Ching Shan's expression didn't change at all. This kind of protection method of the rich people was useless to him. Tung Ching Shan had been around the world for many years. What kind of strict protection hadn't he seen? Brother, please say, Li Shan said. Tung Ching Shan stared at Li Shan. Tell me, why did you want to kill Qin Hong? Kill Qin Hong? Li Shan was shocked. Very few people knew about this matter. After all, Qin Hong was a member of the special department of the state. Li Shan didn't dare to publicize this matter. "Brother, where did you hear this rumor? It's definitely slander," Li Shan said. "Although I, Li Shan, am not a serious businessman, but when I was young, I, Li Shan, also did such a thing. But if you want me to kill Qin Hong, even if you give me 10 guts, I will not dare." Phew! Li Shan only heard the sound of the wind. He felt a sharp pain in his ear and his left face. Tung Qing Shan's slap sent Li Shan flying. His bath towel fell off. Li Shan was in a sorry state, only wearing underwear. "Brother, why did you?" Li Shan looked at Tung Qing Shan angrily. But what greeted him was Tung Qing Shan's cold eyes and calm voice. "In front of me, you'd better not play tricks. If you lie again, next year today will be your death anniversary." Li Shan's heart trembled. Li Shan, was also a gangster. He had seen a lot of murderers and ruthless people. But Li Shan felt those ruthless murderers compared to the person in front of him were just pets baring their fangs and brandishing their claws. Li Shan looked down and saw the crooked gun barrel. He was completely sober. He looked at Tung Qing Shan and said, "Brother, I, Li Shan and Qin Hong have no grudge. Yes, this time I asked a person to help me kill Qin Hong. But I was also entrusted by someone." Tung Qing Shan frowned. "Entrusted by someone? Who?" Tung Qing Shan asked. Li Shan hesitated and looked at Tung Qing Shan. Tung Qing Shan's eyes suddenly became sharp. Li Shan was scared and said, "It's Shun Yangming, Northeast Shun Yangming." "Shun Yangming of Northeast Two Tigers?" Tung Qing Shan raised his eyebrows. He didn't expect that it was Shun Yangming. In the underworld, Northeast Two Tigers was a relatively powerful independent killer group. One of them was called Wang Qing, and the other one was called Shin Yangming. These two killers were A-level killers. Northeast Two Tigers had a good reputation. However, 1 year ago, one of the Northeast Two Tigers, Wang Qing, died. This killer group was disbanded. Among the killers, some belonged to a big organization, and some are independent. Northeast Two Tigers belonged to the independent killer group. They were purely interested in this industry. "Yes, you also know Shin Yangming?" Li Shan smiled bitterly. "Brother, since you know, you should know my difficulties. This Shun Yangming, in the underworld, his name is a golden signboard. I, Li Shan, dare not provoke him no matter how ruthless I am. This time he asked me to kill Qin Hong. Do you think I dare not to give him face?" Tung Qing Shan's eyes were as sharp as a knife, examining Li Shan. Shin Yangming humph. Tung Qing Shan's eyes were cold. Hearing this, Li Shan was surprised. This mysterious youth in front of him didn't seem to put Shin Yangming in his eyes. "Unfortunately, you sent people to kill Qin Hong. I must give you a punishment." Tung Qing Shan's voice was still cold. "No, wait a minute." Li Shan was frightened and said. He was a smart person. How could he not guess Tung Qing Shan's intention? "Don't kill me. If you kill me, it won't do you much good. As long as you don't kill me, I can give you a lot. I can even give you the whole Ming Shan group." Li Shan knew that if you always walk by the river, how could you not wet your shoes? Therefore, Li Shan had already saved a large amount of money in an overseas account. He could use it to escape at the critical moment. Even if he gave the Ming Shan group to the other party, he could still be a rich man. "Money, I don't care," Tung Qing Shan said indifferently. Li Shan's brain was spinning fast. The other party didn't care about money. What should he do? I still have secret books." Li Shan's eyes lit up and shouted, "I know, brother, you are very powerful. Although I also practice the internal martial arts, my strength is not at the entry level. But I have a secret book that can help me become a top master." Tung Qing Shan couldn't help but smile. "Secret book? Become a top master? You have been fascinated by the Wuxia TV series." Tung Qing Shan had already entered the Great Master realm. He also practiced the Godly Tiger form technique. It could be said that he was the most powerful man in the world. What kind of secret book could attract him? "No, it is a real secret book," Li Shan said. "When I was young, I was actually a disciple of a small sect called Thief Sect. Well, I was actually a thief. But our sect was very down and out. In the whole sect, there was no one who had cultivated the internal strength. Tung Ching Shan didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Thief sect? A sect that didn't have a master who had cultivated the internal strength? However, our thief sect has a long history. In the history, there were also masters who had reached the great master realm. Li Shan said. He understood that to deal with this kind of top master, perhaps only the secret book could save him. That is our thief sect's secret book. It has been passed down for more than 2,000 years. It was written by a great master during the period of the Republic of China. Tung Ching Shan raised his eyebrows. He was curious. Where is the secret book? Tung Ching Shan asked. In my study room, on the 3rd floor. Li Shan felt relieved and said, You come with me. I suggest you don't want to escape. It doesn't matter if you have several bodyguards in your villa or not. Tung Ching Shan said. Li Shan recalled the scene of Qin Haodong twisting the gun barrel. He understood that those retired soldiers were really useless. I don't dare to have other thoughts. Please come with me. Tung Ching Shan followed Li Shan and came to the study room on the 3rd floor. Li Shan's study room was very big. There was a bookshelf that occupied almost half of the wall. Li Shan went to the bookshelf and pressed the button on the side of the bookshelf. The entire bookshelf was like a door that opened to the side. It revealed a passage with a locked iron door. It's hidden very well. Tung Ching Shan chuckled. Li Shan smiled and said, After all, it is the treasure of our thief sect. After saying that, he opened the iron door and took out a thread-bound ancient book. Look, Li Shan handed the book to Tung Ching Shan. Tung Ching Shan took a look. There were 4 words on the thread-bound ancient book, Millennium Chronicle. At the corner, there were 2 words, Lu Yin. Chapter 13. In order to get the ancient book, half of Li Shan's body was already in the passage. At this time, Li Shan gritted his teeth and quickly rushed into the passage, which was only half the height of a person. The iron door immediately closed. From the time he rushed into the iron door to the time it closed, it didn't even take half a second. Obviously, Li Shan had practiced this move many times. Phew. Hiding in a small secret room, which was only 2 or 3 square meters, Li Shan was slightly relieved. Fortunately, I have prepared. I believe that he won't kill me. Humph. Li Shan sneered. Li Shan had already considered what he should do if someone wanted to kill him. This small secret room stored many things such as bank cards to attract the assassin, and then he could escape. No matter what, Li Shan only believed in himself. Also because of this almost watertight preparation, Li Shan has not fallen for more than 20 years. Suddenly the wide 5-centimeter thick iron door suddenly flew towards him. The 5-centimeter thick iron door could not be broken even by bullets. Even if Tung Ching Shan wanted to rely on brute force to break through this steel door, he would probably have to gather his strength and use the fiercest tiger cannon fist. However, he didn't need to do that, because breaking the latch was very easy. A figure suddenly rushed in. Brother, Li Shan wanted to say something. Puff! A very slight sound was heard. A bloody hole appeared on his temple. Li Shan's eyes were wide open, motionless. His eyes were filled with unwillingness. Tung Ching Shan didn't look at him, turned around, and quietly left. In the living room of Tung Ching Shan's rented house. I don't know what this Millennium Chronicle is about. This Lu Yin is indeed a great master in the period of the Republic of China. I know this. Tung Ching Shan was curious. As he practiced the internal martial arts, naturally, Tung Ching Shan also knew some famous figures in history. Lu Yin, nicknamed Willow Monkey God, was a rare great master of the Monkey Fist School. In those days, his status was equal to Tiger Head Junior Guardian Sun Lutang. Since it was written by Lu Yin, Tung Ching Shan naturally had the motivation to read it. Opening this Millennium Chronicle, the words inside were all traditional characters. Because many ancient books were written in traditional characters, Tung Ching Shan was taught by Tung Bolei. Tung Bolei also lived abroad and knew traditional characters, so he naturally taught Tung Ching Shan to write traditional characters. Reading this book of traditional characters, Tung Ching Shan had no difficulty. I didn't know that this book of traditional characters, Tung Ching Shan. Tung Ching Shan quickly flipped through the book because this Millennium Chronicle talked about some things in the history of the thief sect. Tung Ching Shan stopped after reading about one-third of the book, because the title of this chapter turned out to be The Millennium Evolution of the Martial Arts World. According to the historical records of the Stealing Sect and the Martial Arts World Chronicle I discovered, I found that from ancient times to the present, there are fewer and fewer people who can reach the Grandmaster realm, and it is getting more and more difficult. Reading this sentence, Tung Ching Shan could not help but secretly nod. Also, the history of internal martial arts, although all the major sects claim to have 1,000 years. In fact, the longest history of internal martial arts, Tai Chi, was also created by Zhang Sanfeng of Wudong in the Ming Dynasty, less than 1,000 years ago. In the history of Huaxia, internal martial arts only appeared in the last 1,000 years. What about the thousands of years before that? Reading this, Tung Ching Shan could not help but sympathize. Xia, Shang, Zhou, Spring, and Autumn warring states, Qin and Han, three kingdoms, Jin, northern and southern dynasties, Sui and Tang. In these dynasties, did people rely on brute force to fight? Tung Ching Shan did not believe it. For example, those fierce generals in the Sui and Tang dynasties could easily swing a stone lion weighing 1,000 pounds with their hands. Waving a stone lion and lifting it were two different concepts. For example, an ordinary person could lift 100 pounds of rice, but holding a 10 pounds dumbbell in one hand and waving it casually, he would not feel comfortable. To wave a stone lion weighing 1,000 pounds, one must at least have the strength to lift 10,000 pounds. Even the current Tung Ching Shan had to use all of his strength to wave that kind of stone lion, and it was also impossible for him to fight for a long time. During the Three Kingdoms period, some fierce generals could rely on their own strength to rush into the midst of thousands of troops and kill people. This was simply incredible. A person's strength was limited. How could he ignore thousands of troops and horses? Yes, this is the history of internal martial arts in the last 1,000 years. Then what about the thousands of years before that? Tung Ching Shan was also puzzled and continued to read. I've spent more than 10 years to collect information, and finally, I have a clear inference in my heart. My inference is, since the Sui and Tang dynasties, the spiritual qi of heaven and earth has been sharply decreasing. Seeing this, Tung Ching Shan could not help but feel very puzzled. According to a lot of information I have found, in the spring and autumn period, warring states period, Qin and Han period, there was no such thing as internal martial arts. At that time, the experts absorbed the essence of heaven and earth, which is the spiritual qi of heaven and earth, and refined the essence in a qi, causing their bodies to produce inner strength. As they practiced, the inner strength became stronger and stronger, opening up one meridian after another until they reached the culmination of the postliminary realm. The inner strength experts who reach the culmination of the postliminary realm have surging inner strength and are extremely powerful. When the mysterious Naiwan Palace is opened in the mind, they begin to refine the qi into spirit. This person's spirit can fuse with the inner strength and be tempered in the dantian, gradually transforming into the innate true origin and becoming a powerful innate expert. The innate experts continuously refine their true origin, and the true origin is continuously tempered in the dantian. The first stage is the emptiness core realm, and when the true origin condenses into a solid body, it is the second stage, the solid core realm. After the solid core is tempered many times, it can reach the third stage, the golden core realm. The golden core innate experts are the pinnacle experts. They have unimaginable strength. According to the ancient legends, those who could charge into thousands of troops and fight against tens of thousands of troops alone were all innate experts. When Tung Ching Shan saw this, he felt that it was inconceivable. How is this possible? Postliminary? Innate? This person's spirit and inner strength can actually be combined into innate true origin. The innate realm is actually divided into three stages: the emptiness core, the solid core, and the golden core. In ancient times, the so-called golden core realm referred to this. When one steps into the golden core realm, that is when one truly reaches the peak. Tung Qingshan nodded his head slightly. This was probably the only explanation. Otherwise, some famous people in history, such as Yunu and Xiangyu, would not be able to explain why they were so powerful. Moreover, there were many records that called the ancient practitioners of the 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors as qi practitioners. It was probably because they refined the spiritual qi of heaven and earth. Tung Qingshan continued reading. However, from the Sui and Tang dynasties onwards, the spiritual qi of heaven and earth began to decrease sharply. Therefore, the heroes of the Sui and Tang dynasties should be the last batch of super experts. For example, Li Yuanba, Qin Xiong, and the others. Only when they reach the innate realm can they wield a 1,000-pound object and not feel tired. The records in the book also resonated with Tung Qingshan. He was already at the limit of the human world. With a stone lion in each of his hands, he could wield heavy objects and fight for a long period of time. Tung Qingshan asked himself if he could do it. And according to some of the records of the various sects, after the Sui and Tang dynasties, the number of experts decreased. Later on, not even a single innate expert appeared. By the time the Song dynasty began, even absorbing the spiritual qi of heaven and earth and refining it into inner strength was almost impossible. Tung Qingshan sighed inwardly. First, no one reached the innate realm. Later on, no one could cultivate it all. The fewer experts there are, the weaker the Song dynasty is. Since absorbing the spiritual energy of heaven and earth to cultivate inner strength is not an option, then why not? The people of the Song dynasty will naturally think of a way to take another path. Tung Qingshan nodded slightly. In ancient times, training physical strength was only done by unimportant people. That was because it was almost impossible to rely on physical training to produce inner strength. From the outside to the inside was simply too difficult. However, since it was impossible to simply absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth to produce inner strength. Because of this, generations of peerless geniuses devoted themselves to it. As time passed, there were gradually people who could rely on a series of methods, such as stance, to produce inner strength. For example, the general of the Song dynasty, Yu Fei, was a general who could produce inner strength. However, during the Song dynasty, the internal martial arts was only in its embryonic form. Only a few geniuses could produce inner strength. As for opening all the meridians in the body and reaching the Grandmaster realm, it was impossible. After the short Yuan dynasty and the early Ming dynasty, Wu Dang's sect Zhang Sanfeng should be the first Grandmaster to cultivate the internal martial arts to the peak. He opened all the meridians, muscles, skin, tendons, and bones. From this period onwards, the internal martial arts system was finally perfected. Later on, Tai Chi, Xingyi martial arts, Gua Fist, many types of martial arts also appeared one by one. Tung Qingshan watched from beginning to end and couldn't help but sigh. He could only sigh. The ability of humans to adapt to the environment was indeed very strong. In ancient times, the Reiki of heaven and earth was abundant. People learned how to absorb the Reiki of heaven and earth to produce inner strength and even innate true origin. However, when the Reiki of heaven and earth decreased sharply, what should humans do? After hundreds of years of exploration, it was unknown how many talented people had wasted their youth to gradually create the internal martial art. In the modern era, the cultivation system of the internal martial arts was already very perfect. Even the godly tiger form technique, black tortoise boulder energy, and ichthyosaur transformation, which are magical secret techniques that only grandmasters could cultivate. In the spring and autumn period, Warring States period, and Qin and Han period, could the people of that time imagine that one could cultivate from the outside to the inside to this stage? Actually, The cultivation process is the process of refining essence into qi and refining qi into spirit. In ancient times, the essence of refining essence into qi referred to the essence of heaven and earth and the reiki of heaven and earth. But now, the essence refers to the human body's blood essence. Lu Yin described in the book, after all, it can't be absorbed from the outside. It can only be absorbed from the human body's blood essence. Therefore, most of the experts who cultivate the internal martial arts are very big eaters. It's normal for them to eat half a roasted lamb in one meal because they need to refine a large amount of blood essence. Naturally, they need to eat more. Tung Qing Shan nodded to himself. Indeed, he himself was a big eater. To cultivate the internal martial arts, the first requirement was to have a strong body and sufficient blood essence. When the blood essence reached a certain level, it could be gradually refined into inner strength. Chapter 14. Internal martial arts trains the strength of the whole body until the inner strength is produced. Then it reaches the Grandmaster realm. In fact, this is the refining essence in a qi stage. The ancient people didn't pay attention to the training of muscles and bones. In their eyes, it was just a small way. They focused on absorbing the spiritual qi of heaven and earth and refining it into inner strength. After all, the spiritual qi of heaven and earth was abundant in ancient times. It could be used to refine a large amount of inner strength and even store it in the dantian. As for us who practice internal martial arts, we rely on refining the blood essence in our body to refine a little inner strength. The inner strength is very little, and it's all in the meridians. Tung Qing Shan sighed when he heard this. Nowadays, when experts fight, inner strength is only a support. Most of them rely on the strength of their muscles and bones. As for the ancient people, they purely rely on their powerful inner strength. After all, they don't care about money. But the modern people have too little inner strength. It's so little that they don't need to store it in the dantian. However, compared with the ancient cultivation methods, internal martial arts has both advantages and disadvantages. The disadvantage is that the Grandmaster of internal martial arts is probably the peak of the post-liminary realm in ancient times. In ancient times, there were innate experts. The innate realm is divided into 3 stages: hollow core, solid core, and golden core. It's much stronger than it is now. The advantage is that the Grandmasters of internal martial arts have opened all the meridians in their body. As for the ancient people, it was extremely difficult to open the meridians. Opening the conception and governing vessels seemed to be a great achievement. Tung Qing Shan saw this and laughed. Indeed, the Grandmasters of the modern times had opened all the meridians in their body. Whether it was the 8 extraordinary meridians, the 12 standard meridians, or even the various small vessels, they had opened all the meridians. The inner strength could reach every part of the body in an instant. I didn't understand at first. The ancient cultivators had stronger inner strength, so it should be easier for them to open the meridians. How could it be more difficult for them to open the meridians than us? Tung Qing Shan nodded slightly. After understanding and investigating, I have some speculations. Ancient cultivators absorbed the spiritual energy of heaven and earth and accumulated enough inner strength. After that, they relied on their powerful inner strength to gradually open up their meridians. This method is just like cleaning up a river. It's to constantly push back the silt and rubbish in the river. The more rubbish is pushed back, the more crowded the river will be. Although a lot of impurities seeped out of the pores during the process of opening up the meridian channels, there were even more impurities that were pushed back into the other meridians. Tung Qing Shan nodded to himself. Every time a meridian is opened, the impurities in the other meridians will become denser, and it will also make it more difficult to open the next meridian. Tung Qing Shan was completely captivated by this inference. Therefore, it was extremely rare for ancient cultivators to open the 8 extraordinary meridians and 12 standard meridians. As for opening up some small meridians, that's almost impossible. Tung Shan nodded in agreement. The method determines the result. The ancient people's method of opening meridians relied purely on brute force. They relied on powerful inner strength to continuously push out impurities. Naturally, it would be more difficult to open the meridians later on. This couldn't be blamed on the ancient people. After all, their method of cultivation was mainly to refine powerful inner strength. But my internal martial arts is different. My internal martial arts trains every part of the body. Whether it's muscles, fascia, or bones, they're all being trained. Even the meridians are being stimulated and trained to become wider and tougher. There are originally not many impurities in the meridians. With the training, the impurities will gradually seep out of the pores. Because our inner strength is scarce, we can't squeeze it out. With years of training, the impurities will constantly seep out. One day, we will be able to open up all the meridians and reach the Grandmaster realm. Tung Shan also smiled. He himself was a Grandmaster of the internal martial arts. He understood this point. If the ancient method of cultivation was to forcefully push out impurities with inner strength, but the current internal martial arts was to strengthen every part of the body, including the meridians. During the training of the small meridians that were connected to the pores, the impurities in the branch meridians had already seeped out of the pores. Naturally, the impurities in the main meridians would slowly flow into some of the branch meridians and then seep out of the pores. Silently, all the impurities would seep out through the small branch meridians. But what about the ancient people? From the beginning, they squeezed a large amount of impurities into the branch meridians, causing the small branch meridians to be completely blocked. It was better to let it out than to block it. Therefore, from the perspective of opening up the meridians, the cultivation of the internal martial arts should be far better than the cultivation methods of the ancient people. Seeing this conclusion, Tung Shan was very much in agreement. After all, how many ancient people could open up all the meridians? Sometimes I think if an internal martial arts grandmaster could go back to the Xia, Shang, Zhou, Spring and Autumn, Warring States, Qin and Han dynasties, the era with abundant spiritual qi of heaven and earth. If all the meridians in the body were opened up and he practiced various ancient secret methods, his achievements would be limitless. In the end, this internal martial arts grandmaster from the Republic of China sighed. An expert was lonely. The Grandmaster Willow God Monkey also stood at the peak of human strength in the Republic of China. We knew that there were 3 realms of the innate realm. How could he not yearn for it? After reading the long description of Willow God Monkey, Tung Shan also sighed with emotion in his heart. Hate can't be born in the distant ancient times. Tung Shan secretly sighed. In this modern society, he was already the peak of the Grandmaster, but in the distant ancient times, the advanced post-liminary realm was just an ordinary master, not even touching the door of the innate realm. In the era of the masters, just thinking about it, Tung Shan could not help but feel his blood boiling. I really don't know why. Since the Sui and Tang dynasties, the spiritual qi of heaven and earth began to decline sharply. Tung Shan thought, and then continued to read the Millennium Chronicle. The book, Millennium Chronicle, was indeed a book that recorded the training methods of the thief sect. The latter part of the book purely described the training methods of the monkey fist from the entry level to the Grandmaster level. Although there were methods to rely on, it was extremely difficult for ordinary people to practice the internal strength, not to mention becoming a Grandmaster. When Tung Shan turned to the last few pages, he could not help but be surprised. My thief sect had passed down several ancient secret books. At first, I did not take these secret books seriously, but after investigating the secrets of ancient practice, I knew that these secret books were all true. However, the spiritual qi of heaven and earth had declined sharply. These secret books were already useless. However, in addition to the cultivation secret book, there's also a Qigong secret book of my godly thief sect called Crossing Worlds. This ancient secret book is not about cultivating inner strength, but it is a pure method of using inner strength. I have reached the Grandmaster level for 20 years and accumulated a lot of internal strength. After trying for a while, I found that after only using it once, the internal strength was completely consumed. I can only sigh. The internal strength of the ancient people was too vigorous. Seeing this, Tung Shan could not help but smile bitterly. In the battle of the grandmasters of the modern internal martial arts, at most, they would occasionally use the internal strength. After all, the internal strength was very little, so little that they did not need to be stored in the dantian. In ancient times, it was said that the internal strength could fill the dantian. What kind of internal strength was that? I, Willow God Monkey, was most proud of my flexible body and fast speed. But I found that after using Crossing Worlds, although only using it once consumed all the internal strength, the speed was too fast. I could not bear to let this secret book disappear, so I recorded it at the end of this book. The last few pages of the book, Millennium Chronicle, recorded this ultimate body movement secret book, Crossing Worlds. This secret book, in the Spring and Autumn Warring States period, Qin and Han period, might be very precious. However, in today's era, this secret book could at most be regarded as a collection, and its practical use was very small. After all, using it once could exhaust the internal strength of an internal martial arts grandmaster. Who would dare to use it? After all, without the internal strength, it was extremely dangerous during the battle. I don't know how powerful Crossing Worlds is. Tung Shan carefully read. According to the description of Crossing Worlds, after reaching the innate Golden Dan realm, using Crossing Worlds could reach the highest level of so close, yet worlds apart. What a waste, what a waste. Tung Shan carefully observed the method of using it and couldn't help but sigh. As the sun rose, in the courtyard of Tung Shan's residence, a figure was walking with strange steps. On the cement floor, there were depressions of footprints. These depressions were deliberately stepped by Tung Shan according to the position of the footsteps described in Crossing Worlds, and then he began to continuously train. According to the records in this secret book, the most basic set of footsteps of Crossing Worlds seemed simple, but in fact, it contained endless mysteries. This footstep is really strange. Tung Shan followed the sequence and practiced this footstep from late at night until now. After a long time, Tung Shan gradually found that this footstep contained a special pattern. This pattern could not be summed up by logic. However, Tung Shan felt it. It's useless to just practice this footstep. With my 12 forms of Xingyi, I'm not worse than it. Tung Shan stopped. It seems that this Crossing Worlds footstep can only be used with the internal strength. Tung Shan used to be a super killer, so he certainly had a good memory. This Crossing Worlds, the contents of the secret book of only a few thousand words, the 3 footstep diagrams, and the 6 meridian diagrams have been deeply remembered by Tung Shan. Let's try it and see how powerful this Crossing Worlds is. Tung Shan's heart was itching. Just like the great Grandmaster Willow God Monkey during the Republic of China, he couldn't resist the temptation and decided to try it. Enter the Chongmen, go straight down, pass through the Blood Sea, Diji, Shangxiu, meet in Dadu, and return. Tung Shan still clearly remembered the method of using the internal strength in his body. While running the internal strength in his body, Tung Shan's whole body seemed to turn into a bolt of lightning, fiercely shooting forward. Whoosh! Suddenly, he disappeared from the courtyard. Stop! Tung Shan suddenly cut off the internal strength. In the blink of an eye, I actually jumped out of the courtyard. It's at least 30 meters. Tung Shan turned his head to take a look. Unexpectedly, he was in a small forest outside the courtyard. Tung Shan was completely shocked by this terrifying speed. When he pounced like a tiger, he could only travel 10 meters. But in the blink of an eye, he was already 30 meters away. This internal strength consumption is too fast. As soon as I started it, I immediately stopped, but the internal strength was consumed by half. Tung Shan somewhat understood what the Willow God Monkey said. If his reaction was a little slower, perhaps the internal strength in his body would be completely consumed. Incredible, but I don't dare to be so wasteful in a fight. Tung Shan secretly sighed. This crossing worlds footstep was indeed magical, but the consumption of internal strength was too shocking. Chapter 15. P.S. Tomato is in urgent need of everyone's recommendation votes. Give as many as you can. Yangzhou train station. Around 5 o'clock in the evening, two Indian men walked out of the train station exit. One of them was 8 meters tall, with a gentle smile that made people feel like they were bathing in the spring breeze. The strange thing was his neck was as thick as his head, and he also had a braid. The other Indian man was nearly 2 meters tall, bald, and expressionless. Two gentlemen, are you here for a tour in Yangzhou? At this time, a short-haired youth greeted them and said in English, "We are a left-hand travel agency." Yes, the two Indian men nodded. Following the short-haired youth, they came to a road not far from the train station, where there was a seemingly ordinary taxi. It took you more than a month to find Lone Wolf's trail. Your dark-hand efficiency is really low. That nearly 2 meters tall, indifferent Indian man coldly snorted and said in fluent English. The short-haired youth could only smile. That Lone Wolf was probably injured in the battle with the sharpshooter and broken body machine. That's why he has been hiding. Moreover, in China, we are under a lot of restrictions and we don't have enough manpower. Therefore, we only found his trail yesterday. He was injured in the battle with Sun Tzu and Dolgothrov, those two little guys. Big brother, it seems like killing that Lone Wolf is not challenging at all. I can easily deal with him by myself. The tall Indian man said. The world's #1 organization, Divine Kingdom's 3 big shots are Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. The 3 of them have equal status, but in terms of age, Vishnu is the oldest, so he is the big brother. Brahma and Shiva are very aggressive. Vishnu, on the other hand, is more amiable. Yes, but we can't be careless. The Indian man with the braid said with a gentle smile. The 2 big shots of the Divine Kingdom organization took this taxi and went to the city. About an hour after the 2 Indian men left, around 6 o'clock in the evening, another group of people appeared at Yangzhou train station. This group of people left from Tianjin, took a train for a day, and arrived at Yangzhou in the evening. Boss Shun, get in the car. 2 Volkswagen Passats picked up the group of 4. In the first Passat, sitting in the back seat was a lean man wearing a travel hat and casual clothes. Beside him sat a middle-aged man with a big belly and a fierce face. Your boss and the assassin he hired are both dead? The lean man frowned. Yes, not long after that killer died, the boss died. Boss died in the secret passage of the study. 2 days after he died, the servants who were cleaning the study smelled the stench and found his body. The fierce-looking middle-aged man shook his head and sighed. We don't know who did it. The lean man frowned and said in a low voice, it can't be Qin Hong. Qin Hong was a member of the Special Operations Team. If he wanted to kill someone, he would definitely not leave a corpse behind. He would clean up the scene. Boss Shun, this matter is very strange. Boss was under our heavy protection, but he died without a sound. Killing that Qin Hong is not urgent. Boss Shun, why did you come here personally and put yourself in danger? The fierce-looking middle-aged man advised. Humph, what do you know? The lean man coldly snorted, scaring the middle-aged man into silence. After all, the other party was a famous big shot in the underworld, northeast Shenyangming. Big brother, even if I die, I will definitely avenge you. Shenyangming silently said in his heart. Generally, to be able to form an assassin group, the 2 people must be able to entrust their lives to each other. Just like the wolf and cat group in the past, Tung Qingshan and his wife were basically husband and wife. Cat's death even made Tung Qingshan go crazy and kill the entire organization's base. There was also the sharpshooter and body crusher. When Sun Tzu died, Dolgothrov was like a madman and madly attacked Tung Qingshan. To be able to form an assassin group, the relationship between them must be extraordinary. Wang Qing, one of the 2 tigers of the Northeast, was attacked by the elites of the Special Operation Group and died in the hands of Qin Hong. The reason why Wang Qing died was actually to help his brother Shen Yongming. In the end, Shen Yongming escaped with his life, but Wang Qing was killed. The one who killed Wang Qing was Qin Hong. Shen Yongming will never forget his enemy Qin Hong for the rest of his life. Originally, he wanted to borrow a knife to kill Qin Hong, but it seems that it will not be so easy. For his big brother, Shen Yongming did not hesitate and personally killed his way to Yangzhou. Qin Hong, you will die without a doubt. Shen Yongming secretly said in his heart and then immediately ordered, "Stop at the entrance of the hotel in front. Then you guys will have nothing to do." Regarding the surveillance of Qin Hong's whereabouts, Shen Yongming naturally will not let these hooligans do it. This time, he also spent a lot of money to ask the Hand of Darkness organization for help. In order to kill Qin Hong, Shen Yongming did not hesitate. Around 7 o'clock in the evening, Tung Qingshan was having dinner in a small farmer's restaurant. His phone vibrated. Tung Qingshan was a bit surprised. No one should be calling him. "Hello." Tung Qingshan pressed the answer button. "Tung Qingshan, this is Lin Qing." Lin Qing's excited voice came from the phone. "Do you have time now? I have something urgent to talk to you about." Currently, Tung Qingshan did not have anything else to do. He was wholeheartedly immersed in martial arts. Urgent? Tung Qingshan was a bit confused. "Yes, it's very urgent. Can you come over for a while? It's at the West District's Bright Moon Lake." Lin Qing quickly said. Tung Qingshan thought for a while and then nodded. "Okay, I'll be there right away." Then, Tung Qingshan directly stopped a taxi and immediately rushed to the West District's Bright Moon Lake. Tung Qingshan was full of doubts. In a few times I've met Lin Qing, she seems to be a very calm person. She has never been so anxious. But from the sound, it doesn't seem like she's in any danger. Tung Qingshan could not figure out what Lin Qing was up to. But after all, they had met many times. So, Tung Qingshan still chose to go. It was completely dark now. At the West District's Bright Moon Lake, only the dim street lights were lit. At this late hour, there were not many people there. A silver Audi A4 was quietly parked beside the Bright Moon Lake. A woman was sitting in the driver's seat. It was Lin Qing. After the taxi stopped, Tung Qingshan paid, got out of the car, and walked directly to the lake. Tung Qingshan. Lin Qing immediately walked out of the car and waved excitedly. And Tung Qingshan carefully looked around. Except for Lin Qing, there was no one else, so he walked over with doubt. Tung Qingshan. Lin Qing immediately ran over. "Why are you looking for me so urgently? What's the matter?" Tung Qingshan asked. "Ha!" Lin Qing couldn't help but laugh. "I'm very happy, very happy. So, I wanted to find you." At this time, Lin Qing's smile was very bright. Even her eyes were squinted. That was from the bottom of her heart. Extremely pure and extremely presumptuous smile. The lake breeze was blowing, and her hair flew across Lin Qing's face. At this moment, the presumptuous smile of Lin Qing had a special charm. "So happy." Tung Qingshan smiled lightly. "And let me tell you that Li Shan is dead." Lin Qing was very excited. "He's dead. This devil is finally dead. I'm so excited. I've never been so happy." "Ha!" Tung Qingshan was startled. "Li Shan? Could it be the Li Shan that I killed?" "Who is Li Shan?" Tung Qingshan asked. "It's Li Shan from Mingshan Group. You're not from Yangzhou, so you probably don't know him." Lin Qing said. Tung Qingshan was sure that it was the cunning middle-aged man that he killed. Lin Qing clenched his fists, his body slightly trembled, and his eyes flashed with ruthless light. "I've been dreaming that someone would kill this bastard. There are many people who wanted to kill him, but he didn't die. I was even desperate. I could only hope that one day he would get a terminal illness. But I didn't expect that he would die in the secret passage of his study room." Lin Qing happily smiled. "It's good that he died. It's really good that he died. He seems to have a big grudge against you." Tung Qingshan said. "Big grudge?" Lin Qing sneered. "Or I owe him a favor." Tung Qingshan wrinkled his brows. "Owe him a favor?" Lin Qing continued. "Actually, my family is very poor. My mother died of a serious illness when I was a child. My father was working outside. He accidentally fell from a high place and became paralyzed. I could only work hard to take care of my brother and let him go to school. You also understand that I am just a girl with an ordinary education background. What can I do? It was Li Shan who kept me. Lin Qing sneered. Tung Qingshan's state of mind didn't fluctuate a bit. He had seen too many tragedies. Just like when he was 7 years old, he struggled in a pile of dead people. He had seen all kinds of tragedies. Regarding this kind of thing, Tung Qingshan didn't have any discrimination. As the saying goes, every family has its own difficulties. Everyone has their own sufferings. I used the money I got from him to take care of my brother and my veteran father. The agreement was for 1 year. I used part of the money to do business. My business was getting bigger and bigger. I didn't need to rely on him, but I couldn't get rid of him because his power was too high. He ate both the underworld and the legal world. If he wanted to kill me, it was easier than killing an ant. I still had my brother and my father. I had to endure it. In front of him, I was just like a slave. I have been living in fear. Don't be fooled by my glamorous appearance. In fact, Lin Qing looked at Tung Qingshan. It was that time, Tung Qingshan. You carried me for 20 miles. I felt peaceful on your back. I felt safe for the first time. Tung Qingshan understood that feeling, because when he was in the Siberian training camp, he was also in fear. He didn't dare to relax for even a moment because he could die at any time. Only when he became the disciple of his master, Tongbo Lei, could he live a peaceful life. Now I am free. Without Li Shan, his subordinates have already fallen apart. Lin Qing felt an unprecedented relief. His heart, that had been hanging for many years, could finally be put down. I don't need to live that kind of life anymore. I don't need to live that kind of life anymore. I am very happy. I want to find someone to talk to. I want to talk to all of this. The first person I thought of was you. P.S. Shout to the sky. I want the recommendation ticket. Chapter 16. Congratulations on gaining your freedom and happiness. Tung Qingshan lightly smiled. Lin Qing stared at Tung Qingshan. She is a girl from a poor family. Lin Qing really knows how to judge people. She could feel that Tung Qingshan had always kept her at arm's length and had never treated her as a close friend. Tung Qingshan. Lin Qing hesitated, but still plucked up the courage to ask. I want to ask you, if I pursue you, will you accept? It takes a lot of courage for a girl to ask this question. Sorry. Tung Qingshan did not hesitate at all. Lin Qing's face slightly paled and self-deprecatingly said, Do you think I am dirty? No. Tung Qingshan shook his head and said, In my heart, except for my wife, I can't let go of any other woman. Lin Qing tried hard to squeeze out a smile. Lin Qing, you should go back. Tung Qingshan suddenly said. Lin Qing was startled. She noticed that Tung Qingshan's eyes were staring at a dark place in the distance. Could there be someone? Lin Qing also looked over in confusion. In the blur, two figures were gradually approaching. Under the illumination of a street lamp, Lin Qing could barely see the appearance of the two people. From their appearance, they are obviously from South Asia. One of them was wearing a loose white sweatshirt and white loose pants. His naturally curly hair was casually tied into a long braid. His face was kind, and his eyes were like two black jade stones. The other person was nearly 2 meters tall. His bald head was reflecting light under the illumination of the street lamp. His eyes emitted a cold and fierce light like a python, making people's heart palpitate. These two people were two of the 3 giants of the world's #1 organization, Divine Kingdom, Vishnu and Shiva? Lin Qing was scared to the point that her heart trembled. It seems like the hand of darkness is not very efficient. You only found me now. Tung Qingshan spoke in Chinese. Find you and you will die. The curly-haired Indian man in white paused for a moment and said. It was obvious that his standard of Chinese was relatively low. Dead? Lin Qing looked at Tung Qingshan in shock and said in a low voice, Tung Qingshan, let's call the police. Although his voice was very low, the 2 leaders of the Divine Kingdom, who were 30 meters away, could hear him clearly. The man in white, Vishnu, had a smile on his face. As for Shiva, she did not understand Chinese at all. Police? How could an ordinary police officer intervene in a fierce battle between three people who were said to be at the pinnacle of the human world? Lin Qing, go back. Ting Qing Shan suddenly moved. Haha, come at me if you want to kill me. Tung Qing Shan dashed into the darkness beside the bright moon lake. Want to escape? The bald man, Shiva, roared and dashed forward like a bolt of lightning. As for the man in white, Vishnu, he smiled and chased after them as if he was taking a stroll. But every step he took covered 4 to 5 meters. Lin Qing stared blankly at this scene. The speed of Tung Qing Shan and the other two completely stunned her. Not good. They want to kill Tung Qing Shan. Lin Qing panicked. Although Tung Qing Shan did not ask her to call the police, in her subconscious mind, if she encountered a dangerous situation, she would call the police. This Lin Qing still chose to call the police. Since the time when Lin Qing and Tung Qing Shan met at the Willow Tea House and was discovered by Qin Hong, the special task force has been specially assigned to follow Lin Qing. At this moment, behind a rockery near the Bright Moon Lake, a woman wearing a jacket and short hair took out her phone. Chief Yang. 2 Indians suddenly appeared. They should be Vishnu and Shiva, the 2 big shots. Lone Wolf started to escape, and the 2 big shots are chasing after him. In the old district of Yangzhou City, in an ordinary courtyard, there were actually about 20 people gathered. Now, the 2 big shots of the Divine Kingdom and Lone Wolf have already started a fight at the Bright Moon Lake. The situation is very tense. We should hurry over now. After Yang Yin finished speaking, she immediately made a phone call. Chief Liu, it's me. Someone just called the police saying that there are Indians in the Moon Lake who want to kill people. Okay, we will take responsibility for this matter. You don't need to get involved. If ordinary people were to get involved in this battle, it would only affect them. Xiao Jun, you guys stay here. Help me take care of your sister-in-law. That's Xinyang Ming. I am worried when he will come out. Qin Hong put on a bulletproof vest and other equipment. At the same time, he instructed his subordinates. This time, the 16 people who set off were the most outstanding elites of the Special Task Force in Jiangsu. Qin Hong was the only one in charge of the Special Task Force. Don't worry, Qin. The people who stayed at the headquarters immediately said. At this time, the pregnant Li Ran also walked out of the house. Qin Hong said, Xiao Ran, rest well. We will be back soon. You be careful. Li Ran was also a member of the organization. She knew the danger of this kind of operation. Don't worry. Qin Hong comforted her. Now let's go. Yang Yun ordered. Hurry up, Qin Hong. The others have already rushed out of the house. Qin Hong did not dare to hesitate. Immediately followed the other team members, divided into 4 black Jetta cars, quickly rushed to the Moon Lake in Xiqing District. In the courtyard, Li Ran's face could not help but show a trace of worry. Xiao Ran's sister, be careful. Don't stand outside the house. Quickly go inside. Did you forget the phone call a few days ago? The other members of the headquarters immediately ran over. I know. Li Ran also recalled the phone call. She was next to the phone at that time, clearly heard the content of the call. The other side reminded Qin Hong, saying that the northeast Xinyang Ming wanted to kill him, and asked Li Shan to help. That Li Shan hired a desperado Chu Tian. Chu Tian was in a rented house in the old city. Later, they found Chu Tian's body, and just this morning, they also knew that Li Shan's body was found in a secret passage in his study room. Qin Hong was completely sure that Xinyang Ming really wanted to kill him. In addition, Qin Hong did kill Xinyang Ming's big brother, Wang Qing. It was completely reasonable for Xinyang Ming to take revenge. Therefore, Qin Hong moved his wife to the headquarters. Phone call, who made it? Why does the other side want to help me? Li Ran, Qin Hong, and others were confused, but the other side did not leave a name. This phone call was made by Tung Qing Shan. Xinyang Ming wanted to kill his brother. Of course, Tung Qing Shan would not let him live. Therefore, he asked Elena to help him find the trace of Xinyang Ming so that he could take action. But to find a person's trace also needs time. Therefore, Tung Qing Shan quietly waited for Elena's news in Yangzhou City. But before the news arrived, the 2 leaders of the Divine Kingdom organization had come. In a rented house in the old city, Xinyang Ming and his 3 subordinates lived. Oh, Qin Hong left his base toward the west city. Shen Yangming was talking to the Dark Hand organization. Okay, I will leave immediately. Keep in touch. When Shen Yangming arrived in the evening, he knew from the Dark Hand organization that Tung Qingshan was hiding in the headquarters of the Special Operation Group, so he could only wait. But he did not expect that Qin Hong would come out so soon. Okay, brothers, we only have one goal: kill Qin Hong. Shen Yangming was like a wolf, glancing at the three people beside him. Don't worry, big brother. Since the three people chose to come with Shen Yangming, they were also desperados. Take your guns. Shen Yangming and the other three people hid their guns and immediately went out of the rented house. A Passat was parked outside the house. After the four people got in the car, they immediately rushed towards the West City. After driving for a while, Shen Yangming, Qin Hong, and his group have arrived at the Moon Lake in the West City. Now, Flying Knife Lone Wolf and the two leaders of the Divine Kingdom are also there. It is very dangerous there. I suggest you don't go. The voice of a member of the Dark Hand came from a phone. What? Shen Yangming was startled. Flying Knife Lone Wolf, the two leaders of the Divine Kingdom? These three people were people that he had to look up to. Thank you, but this is a rare opportunity. Even if I die, I will avenge my brother. Shen Yangming immediately ordered his subordinate in the driver's seat. Hurry, go to the Moon Lake in the West City. The exact route to the Moon Lake was marked on the car's navigation map. Shen Yangming and his group kept overtaking other cars and rushed to the Moon Lake. The Moon Lake had become a gathering place for all parties. At a wasteland about 800 meters away from the Moon Lake, Tung Qingshan ran here in one breath, and the two super powerful people also chased him here in one breath. Flying Knife Lone Wolf, do you only know how to run? The angry Shiva said in fluent English. It is almost impossible to win against two people at the same time. I can only make them careless. Only then I can win. While Tung Qingshan was running, he quickly made a battle plan in his mind. Suddenly, Tung Qingshan, who was running at top speed, suddenly turned around and waved his hand to throw a flying knife. In the darkness, a cold light suddenly shot towards Shiva's throat. The speed was so fast that Shiva couldn't block it with his hand. The head of this 2-meter-tall bald man, Shiva, twisted in a weird way. His neck seemed to be elongated and moved sideways, easily dodging this flying knife. As a great achiever who had practiced ancient yoga to perfection, Shiva's head could easily turn 360 degrees. His muscles and bones had been trained to an unimaginable level. Whoosh! A sharp whistling sound rang out. Tung Qingshan had already approached, and a lightning-fast fist was coming toward him. The bald, strong man, Shiva, grinned, and his fist blasted out like a cannonball. Bang! Tung Qingshan's whole body suddenly shook, and at the same time, he took a few steps back. Big brother, this guy's strength is not bad. Huh. You just watch from the side. Shiva seemed very excited. In the legend of India, one of the three supreme gods, Shiva, was the god of destruction. This bald, strong man could get the title Shiva, which also revealed some information. This person was extremely belligerent. The man in white, Vishnu, stood on the side, silently watching all this. Maybe at some point, he would suddenly make a move. Chapter 17. P.S. Please support this book. Bookmark recommend. Don't miss a single one. At this time, it was already 8 or 9 o'clock in the evening. The sparsely populated Bright Moon Lake was dark. Only the distant street lamps emitted a trace of light. In this dark night, the bald, brawny man Shiva was full of fighting spirit. Huh! Shiva laughed loudly. His legs danced like two big machetes, wantonly chopping towards Tung Qingshan. Tung Qingshan struggled to snort. He crossed his hands in front of his body. Puff! The right leg quickly chopped towards him. Tung Qingshan's hands withstood such a huge impact that they were pressed against his chest. He quickly tiptoed and retreated to reduce the force. Flying Knife Lone Wolf, your strength is very good. You can be considered to have stepped into the unity of man and nature, which is the Grandmaster realm in China. But looking at your age, you should have just stepped into this realm. What a pity, huh? The bald, brawny man, Shiva, said in English. Tung Chingshan knew that unity of man and nature was the highest realm of ancient Indian yoga, which was equivalent to the Grandmaster realm of internal martial arts. If he didn't have the godly tiger form technique and his physical fitness didn't double, perhaps Tung Chingshan would have died today. After all, the two opponents were veteran SS-ranked experts. At this moment, the strength that Tung Chingshan revealed was only the strength that he had just entered the Grandmaster realm. He didn't show his real strength. Hurry up, don't waste time. The white-clothed man, Vishnu, who was watching the fight from the side, said, I know, big brother. After Shiva responded, he let out a low groan. The muscles of his body immediately twisted and bulged. Even his spine was twisting and turning. His whole body began to grow taller. Whether it was his arms, thighs, abdomen, or neck, they all expanded by one size. At this moment, Shiva was like a devil that had descended. To be able to force me to use my full strength. Even if you die, you should be proud. After saying that, Shiva stepped on the ground and shot towards Tung Chingshan like an arrow. Tung Chingshan's expression changed drastically, and he quickly ran away. You can't escape. At that moment, Shiva's speed increased greatly, and she was rapidly closing the distance between her and Tung Chingshan. Tung Chingshan roared in dissatisfaction. He turned around and threw out a burst fist. Ha! Shiva casually swept her leg at Tung Chingshan's right arm. At the same time, Tung Chingshan's entire body was sent flying and smashed into a distant tree. At the moment he hit the tree, the clothes on Tung Chingshan's back bulged. After the collision, Tung Chingshan rolled on the ground. Puff! A trace of blood flowed out from the corner of Tung Chingshan's mouth. Huh! Shiva was even more pleased with herself as she dashed forward again. It's almost time. Tung Chingshan thought to himself. The trace of blood just now was deliberately made by biting the tip of his tongue. From the beginning to the end, everything he did was to paralyze Shiva and Vishnu, who was watching the fight. The strength that Tung Chingshan showed now was at the level of a powerhouse who had just entered the Grandmaster realm. This coincided with the conjecture of Shiva and Vishnu, and they did not doubt it. Die, Shiva said in a tone as if she was judging the life and death of her opponent. She directly kicked down from a high place. Chi-chi, this extremely fierce kick, with a low whistling sound that cut through the air, directly chopped towards Tung Chingshan. Before this kick touched Tung Chingshan had already felt a pressure above his head. At this moment, his figure was fleeting, and his left hand was like a water dragon, with a strange spiral force to receive the kick, while his right fist began to accumulate power. Puff! Tung Chingshan's left arm collided with Shiva's right leg at an angle, instantly reducing most of his opponent's strength. Even so, Tung Chingshan's whole body still took advantage of the momentum to sway to the right. At the same time, his right fist, which had been accumulating power for a long time, suddenly struck out like a cannonball, like a flying meteor. It struck towards Tung Chingshan's chest at lightning speed. Shiva was still laughing wildly. He did not care about Tung Chingshan's punch at all. He directly kicked out his left leg again, cutting through the air, wanting to attack Tung Chingshan. At this moment, Tung Chingshan's right fist was attacking him, so naturally he could not block the incoming left leg. Puff! Tung Chingshan raised his right arm, and the moment his fierce fist approached Shiva's chest, the power actually increased again. When the experts of internal martial arts fought fiercely, they would erupt with the strongest power the moment their fist approached the opponent. For example, the 1-inch punch of the Wing Chun fist. The 1-inch punch looked mysterious, but the principle behind it was actually not complicated. It allowed the power to pass through the joints and muscles bit by bit, and the moment it reached the end of the fist, it would erupt with the strongest power. Of course, it could also be transmitted through the muscles, but this could only be regarded as the method of the ordinary experts of internal martial arts. As a grandmaster, when Tung Chingshan used this punch, It was not obvious at the beginning, so Shiva did not pay much attention to it. But at the last moment, it erupted, bang, directly hit the chest acupoint. Kacha! The deep sound of bones breaking rang out. A strong internal strength directly passed through the skin and into the internal organs. Tung Qingshan's strength was completely exposed at this moment. The most powerful blast fist of the five-element boxing. Phew! The body of the powerful Shiva, who was like a demon, was powerlessly thrown up, and a large mouthful of blood directly splashed out. Bahadur, the expression of the man in white, Vishnu, who was originally quietly watching the fight, changed and anxiously shouted. Tung Qingshan guessed that this Bahadur might be the real name of Shiva, one of the three tycoons. In fact, Shiva's real strength should be similar to that of Tung Qingshan. Shiva had reached the realm of unity of man and nature for more than 10 years, and Tung Qingshan also practiced the godly tiger form technique. However, from the beginning, the opponent thought that Tung Qingshan's strength was weak, so much so that they did not even intend to let the two of them besiege Tung Qingshan. This kind of carelessness finally caused Shiva to suffer a bitter lesson at the critical moment. Tung Qingshan, a super expert with the same strength as him, used the extremely powerful blast fist, and in addition, Shiva was too confident and directly used his body to resist. The consequences of this punch could be imagined. In the blood he spat out, there was a faint trace of internal organs. Big brother. After falling to the ground, Shiva knew that the situation was not good, and actually wanted to climb up and escape. As a great master of ancient yoga, Shiva, whether it was his skin, bones, or internal organs, had been trained to an incredible level. Even if his internal organs were damaged, he would not die so easily. His vitality was not inferior to that of a mantis. Escape. Tung Qingshan's body crouched, his feet and hands suddenly pushed against the ground, like a ferocious tiger pouncing out. With only the sound of the ground trembling, Tung Qingshan jumped 10 meters, his sharp eyes staring at Shiva, like a ferocious tiger coming down the mountain, vowing to tear him apart. Whoosh! At the moment when his brother was seriously injured, the man in white, Vishnu, immediately rushed to Tung Qingshan. At this moment, the members of the Special Operation Team, who had set off from the headquarters of the ancient city district at a speed of more than 100 kilometers per hour, had already arrived at the Bright Moon Lake. The sound of the emergency brake and many footsteps were, of course, detected by the senses of Tung Qingshan and the two leaders of the Divine Kingdom. "Ha! The people from my sect are here." Tung Qingshan's laughter rang out. "Today, none of you can escape." Sect? Hearing this, Vishnu and Shiva were shocked. What they feared the most were the internal martial arts sects in China, such as the Xing Yi sect, the Wu Dang sect, and the 8 Trigrams sect. Which of these sects did not have a few grandmasters? They'd sent 2 people to pursue the flying dagger, Gulang, this time precisely so that they could safely retreat when they encountered a dangerous situation. In the beginning, they did not care about the flying knife, Lone Wolf. After all, the flying knife, Lone Wolf, was originally just an S-class killer. Even if he became a grandmaster, he was just a beginner grandmaster and was not worth mentioning. However, the reality was far from what they had imagined. The word sect caused Vishnu and Shiva's state of mind to change a little. When experts fought, the state of mind and momentum were extremely important. If one state of mind was shaken, one's strength would be weakened by 10 to 20%. Phew! Shiva was running for his life. Although he knew that his big brother Vishnu was far behind him, he did not dare to turn his head or turn around. If he hesitated even a little, Tung Qingshan, who was getting closer and closer to him, would seize the opportunity to kill him. He crossed the rocks, crossed the road, and ran at full speed. Stop! The white-clothed man Vishnu was strangely fast. Unexpectedly, he was almost as fast as Tung Qingshan. "Kill me!" The bald, strong man, Shiva roared. He turned around with a roar and gave a whip kick. Perhaps the distance caused his internal injury to worsen. Blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. Tung Ching Shan was disdainful of Shiva's fierce appearance. He was very confident that his punch had already seriously injured Shiva. At this moment, this Shiva was just a golden jade on the outside. Tung Ching Shan was like a whirlwind. His hands were like arrows drawn from a bow, crazily attacking his opponent. Bursting fists were like arrows. At this moment, several bursting fists fell on Shiva's head, causing Shiva's head to explode like a watermelon. Because of this moment of delay, the white-clothed man Vishnu caught up. Puff! The furious Vishnu fiercely punched upwards. It was like Pangu splitting the heavens and the earth. It carried endless power as it smashed downwards. Chi-Chi, a huge part of Tung Ching Shan's back, strangely caved in, preventing his opponent's fist from touching him. Suddenly, the white-clothed man Vishnu stretched out his right fist into the shape of a claw. Like an American lion tearing apart its prey, the sharp claw fiercely scratched Tung Ching Shan's back, directly gouging out a large piece of flesh. At this moment, Tung Ching Shan had just killed Shiva. He immediately flew out. A large piece of flesh was gouged out of his back. The pain was unimaginable. Blood dripped everywhere. But almost instantly, the muscles on Tung Ching Shan's back wriggled, and the blood stopped flowing. Relying on the control of his muscles, Tung Ching Shan managed to temporarily control the injury. Not good. A piece of the muscles on my back has been torn. The power of my back will be greatly affected. The power of my left and right fists will also decrease by 20%. Tung Ching Shan didn't care about the pain, but the decrease in strength gave Tung Ching Shan a headache. After all, the power of one's fist was closely related to the muscles on one's back. If it were an ordinary person with a large piece of flesh gouged out of his back, he probably wouldn't be able to punch. But fortunately, I sacrificed this bit and finally killed Shiva. Otherwise, if he didn't die, I would always have to worry about Shiva's sneaky attacks during the fierce battle with Vishnu. Tung Ching Shan glanced at the corpse lying on the muddy ground. For people who had mastered ancient yoga, as long as they were given some time, they would be able to control their internal injuries and display at least 70% to 80% of their strength. At that time, they would definitely be a threat to Tung Ching Shan. Therefore, Tung Ching Shan disregarded everything and killed Shiva. The white-clothed man, Vishnu, took a deep breath. His loose white clothes unexpectedly fluttered. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.